wrote O.J. Howard of Tampa Bay. Now you guys know by now I have a very well-documented O.J. Howard problem. Was very high on him coming into the season. Obviously did not pan out, but has been good to us when we put him here in the six-pack. So we're going to go back to the well here against Detroit. First thing, no Mike Evans. And everyone's searching, is it Brashad Perriman? Is it Justin Watson? I think the answer may very well be O.J. Howard, a guy to kind of pick up some of those targets. We know Mike Evans, a 10, 11, 12 target per week guy. All of those cannot go to Chris Godwin. I think O.J. Howard becomes the number 2 here in this offense. As far as the receivers go, I don't mind throwing a dart on them, but I would rather plug O.J. Howard here against Detroit. 20th in fantasy points allowed to the tight end position. We know Tampa Bay wants to attack through the air, and I think O.J. Howard going to be a big part of that. Really love this spot for him. And especially on DraftKings, really loving that $3,500 price point. Going to open things up to get you some studs. So we're going to go bold here. I think O.J. Howard finds the end zone. Not only that, I think he goes over 100 yards in this game. Gets you that bonus on DraftKings, but a massive game incoming here against the Lions. Get some exposure to O.J. Howard at your tight end position. All right, back to the running back position and back to the mid-range with Phillip Lindsay of the Broncos. Now, ideally, we don't target running backs that are massive underdogs on the road. I understand that. We always talk about it in the fantasy bar. The home running backs, the home favorites, really where you want to look. But I like this spot for Phillip Lindsay, really starting to take control here. Royce Freeman gets worked in, but it seems like his workload continues to shrink week in and week out. Lindsay can be involved in the passing game. This Denver team playing inspired, playing some good ball behind Drew Lock, have been competitive in a lot of games. Minnesota, they should have won that game. Buffalo, they hung in that game. Went into Houston and dominated the Texans. So yes, not an ideal spot being an underdog, but Kansas City really gives it up to the running backs is the bottom line here. Only Carolina giving up more fantasy points to the position. The recent box scores are not great, so I think you're talking about a very low-owned running back. If you need somebody in the mid-range at the position, Phillip Lindsay fits the bill for me here against the Kansas City Chiefs. All right, to the wide receiver position, let's spend some money on DeAndre Hopkins of the Texans. So the Texans starting to lean more on their horse. We kind of wondered what's going on with DeAndre Hopkins. What's the issue? Well, it's 4 touchdowns now over the last 5 games. So this team, massive game this week. Division lead on the line here. Texans and Titans, a game I want to be heavily exposed to, and I want to do that with DeAndre Hopkins. Why? Titans, very good against the ground game, one of the best in the league, but one of those pass funnels where they're not very good against the pass. 23rd in DVOA against the pass. So the recent play of Hopkins, yes, you have to pay a price here, but a very high total in this game. I think we get points here, and the reason why, I think DeAndre Hopkins has a big game. Spend the money, get him in those lineups against the Titans. All right, let's stay at wide receiver. Let's go with value here, and this one may not be a popular play, but the beer got really talking to me about Corey Davis of the Titans. So I get it. If you've written off Corey Davis, you want to move on to the next pick, go ahead and fast forward the video. I understand. I'm not a huge Corey Davis guy either, but when I see this price tag, $3,800, and I know it's been the A.J. Brown show lately, who is the better receiver? No doubt. You want to play A.J. Brown? I have no issues with playing A.J. Brown. In fact, was in some of my lineups last week, so I was very happy with that. But I think it'll be nice leverage. Anybody that stacks this game is going to go Tannehill with A.J. Brown, so it gives you a differentiator. Not talking about a cash game play. There is still upside in Corey Davis, and there's upside in this matchup. The Texans, very vulnerable against the pass. One of the worst teams against the pass, very much like the Titans. They give it up in this department. Bottom 7 in the league in DVOA against the pass. So, again, not a play for everybody. I get it, but I think there's upside here. I think Corey Davis comes to life in this matchup against the Houston Texans. All right, it's time to take a look at my favorite play for Week 15. But before we do that, guys, got to run it back. Got to say thank you to the Loyal Bar patrons, guys. Appreciate you watching the video. So we're going to say thank you by running it back with our Beast of the Week contest. Closest guess in fantasy points on DraftKings to my Beast of the Week going to win themselves either a free week of RotoGrinders Premium or a free RotoGrinders t-shirt. Just a thank you to you guys. Make sure you've hit that like and subscribe button as well. Now, let's get into my favorite play, you know, as the Beast of the Week. All right, Beast Time. We still owe you a quarterback here. We've given you receivers from both the Titans and Texans. I think both quarterbacks in play. But for me, Deshaun Watson, top play on this slate in this week's Beast of the Week. So Watson really starting to put it together here as well. We talked about Hopkins getting on a roll, but Watson, 6 total touchdowns over the last 2 games. Some of that was in garbage time in that game against Denver. Guess what? Garbage time counts the same as regular time. All I want to see at the end of the day are the stats, and we've talked about this game. Close spread, very high total. I think we get a shootout here in this game between these two teams, especially in the air. Neither team can stop each other in the passing game. More passing leads to more clock stoppages, which leads to a potential over here. So Deshaun Watson in a shootout against a team that he's had a lot of success with, and a lot of people don't like looking back. 3 career games against this team. A lot of the coaches the same. A lot of the defensive personnel the same. We're not going back to 2010. Averaging over 30 DraftKings points per game in 3 games against this Tennessee Titans team. I think he does it again here this week. A huge game for the division lead here. Watson over 30. Lock it in here. Easily my favorite play on Week 15 is Deshaun Watson in this week's Beast of the Week. All right, guys, that wraps up for Week 15 in the Fantasy Bar on FanDuel and DraftKings. Any comments, questions, feedback? Guys, the comment section is for you. Need your guess in fantasy points on DraftKings for Deshaun Watson as well. And again, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the like button as well if you enjoyed the video, guys. It means a lot to me and greatly appreciate it. For RotoGrinders.com, I am Beer saying salut. Best of luck here in Week 15. Yahoo video will be out tomorrow. 6 more plays that I'm looking at, so make sure you check that out. Good luck, guys, and we'll see you.
Hey, thanks for checking out our videos. If you want more expert advice on DraftKings, FanDuel, or any other daily fantasy sports, make sure you check out the current videos playlist.
What's going on, everybody? Happy Sunday. It's here. We're ready for some football. Welcome to the Fantasy Draft Morning Wood. I ain't calling it the opening drive. Sorry, D-Train. And Eric Crane. Joined us I am every Sunday, or most Sundays, by Big T and Hoop. Hoop, it is a pleasure to see your face, buddy. Missed you for a few weeks.
Few? I think it was just one, right?
It felt like longer.
Yeah, it's just one. I know. I don't know. I'm kind of confused this morning. I don't know how to it. I mean, you're not in a hotel room and you're not in a car. So, I mean, like, is that a good sign or a bad sign, Tony?
It's always a good sign. That's a good point. I don't know if it is a good sign or a bad sign, but it's a good sign for us, put it that way.
I mean, hey, you guys, you don't understand. Sometimes you just got to do the show where you're at. Oh, man, sorry. I'm sitting here. We're talking before the show about the Discord chat, and here I am. Somebody posted Transformer, the Morningwood Transformer, hanging out in there in the Discord. Oh, man, yeah.
Hey, you guys handle the Discord chat. I got the YouTube chat. I still can't figure out how to get on Discord. So
it's really not hard.
I know.
You literally click the link and like probably put your email in or like.
I'm a YouTuber.
The best part is, Crane, when he actually figures it out, he's gonna love it. Like that's how Hoop works.
Yeah, I know.
Sure. You know, he's going to be hanging out in like the tennis Discord with me in a few weeks. The tennis plays. Yeah, good times. Tony, how are we doing on this Sunday morning?
We're doing good. I mean, so this is what week? It's so late in the season. I don't even know what week it is. What is it? Week 15?
It's week 15. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we're getting close to the end. The NFL just goes so freaking quick, and it's another good week though. Lots of options out there.
Are you over NFL at this point? Or are you still like?
If you don't know me, but I'm never like over. You're always over the sport like halfway through it, and then you're like, I can't 100%. Wait for the. I battle through the playoffs. I'm never over sports.
you are right. That's how I am.
Like I love the end of seasons.
Oh, that makes one of us. I don't know. Hooper, you like? Do you get sick of the seasons or?
Right, that's just all. I mean, awful question. Awful.
Hoops.
I'm not even going to answer.
Who hates sports?
I'm not even going to answer. He said.
Of course, every slate is great. I like every day. Like that's one of my pet peeves when people go, I hate this slate or whatever. Like I love every
slates. I just get sick.
I know who's sports in general. Yeah, like I've said a million times. Like if there's no DFS, like I would not watch any sports whatsoever or sports betting. Like watching sports just for entertainment purposes sounds awful. But in terms of like DFS, like this is yeah, I love every slate. So I'm with Tony. I go all the way to the end.
Hey, that's how we do it on the wood. Before we get started, want to let you guys know if you're hanging out on YouTube, one, the Hoopster's in the chat over there, so tell them what's up. And two, click the like button, click the subscribe button, and I don't know, comment with something. What's a good comment for today, Tony?
Crane's ridiculous.
All right, Crane. Why the hell?
You got to spell ridiculous right too.
Oh, we're really screwed in. Tony, can you spell ridiculous right now?
I can. I'm a good speller.
All right, let's hear it.
I'm not coming through in the spelling. I can't be giving people the answers to the test.
There's no way.
If people would like to get,
let's hear it. Come on, let's hear it.
He's already doing the autocorrect. Look at it.
He's typing it in Google real quick.
No chance. You guys are so full of shit. You can make fun of me a lot of things, but spelling's not one of them.
He activated Siri with his iPhone 10,000X plus 2 million.
Yeah, we're gonna hear in the background. Ridiculous is spelled.
I always won the spelling championship at my school.
Wow. If that didn't get to the ladies, I don't know what did. All right, real quick, RotoGrinders badge. I want to thank these guys for rocking the RotoGrinders badge. We got Tech9R, Tasha Mako 3, and Priagan 8. How did we get? Listen, Dean has the better names this time. Devin, I've told you, man, give me the better names. He gets Iceman, Grinders Baby, and Draft Kongs. Like those are. I'm not happy about this. I'm not happy about this D-Train. I'm just letting you know. All right, let's jump into this slate because we got a big slate on our hands. Let's start it off with the Bears and the Packers. 40.5-point total. Green Bay, 3.5-point favorites. And Tony, you and I always talk about kind of crossing some games off the list. I don't think this is a game I'm crossing off, but this is definitely a game I don't have a ton of interest in.
Yeah, this is a game I'm going to cross off more than likely. I mean, I haven't looked at the weather because I just woke up about 10 minutes ago, but I'm guessing the weather's bad. It was supposed to snow or something.
Boy, that's some next level analysis right there as I pull up the RotoGrinders weather page. Because I haven't looked at weather either because I've also woke up 10 minutes ago.
You can't make fun of me and then say the same thing.
Oh, I can, and I just sorry.
I don't like the game anyways, even if it was good weather, so I definitely don't like it if it's going to be snowing. I mean, it doesn't really have anything to do with the snow, I guess. But
what game? Are you talking about the Packers game?
Yeah.
Just really cold. No snow. It's supposed to just be like 15 degrees.
Dude, I like Aaron Jones. No Akeem Hicks for the Bears. Cold weather. Like, I could definitely see Aaron Jones going off this, like, no freaking ownership.
The running backs have so much value this week, though, because there's so many good ones. I don't know.
I get you. Like, he's priced in that range where he's in between. He's in between, like, Carson and somebody else is really good where, like, you can't really – it's tough to click the button. But, hey, 3% play terms. I don't hate that. Hoop, what are you doing with this one?
The only play for me here is going to be Devontae Adams in tournaments, and not super excited about it. I mean, just because I just think he's like the most talented wide receiver and won't have, basically any ownership because this game, the total's so low and whatnot. So just him.
Oh, wait, hold on. Akeem Hicks is actually in. Okay. I missed that piece of news. So, yep. Never mind. I'm off Aaron Jones. Sweet. Hey, anytime I can cross the guy off my list, I'm happy. So, all right. Yeah.
My YouTube people are coming after Big T.
Wait. How are they coming after Big T?
For what?
Great call on Aaron Jones last week and the New Orleans San Francisco game not shooting out.
What did Aaron Jones go off last week? Did I miss something? Seriously, did he do something?
I don't know. I just like when people talk shit about Tony.
Aaron Jones last week had 34 DK. So yeah.
Oh, I honestly didn't even know he went off. Like he didn't. Yeah.
Anyhow,
make fun of me then.
Let's move on.
I definitely made fun of Crane for the over in the New Orleans game, though. You can definitely make fun of me about that.
Yeah, dude, that was wild.
Like, it was great. And Tony, you and I talked about this. I think it was on Monday on XM, where it was just like.
See, now we get to both make Hoop feel bad when you put me in the subtle brag. Like, I get to be in the XM brag now.
Hey, the problem. I mean,
me and you were talking on XM. He said it.
Poor Hoop's on the sidelines for XM.
Hoop wouldn't show up, man. You know how that is. We'd have the producers calling his Hoop showing up. We'd be like, oh.
Hey, I bet. I mean, I've only met, I think, 3 weeks total. I mean, it's pretty good.
I'm telling you, you're crushing it this year.
I need to get like one of those attendance ribbons, in elementary school.
Next to my spelling bee test.
We got the spelling bee champ. We got the attendance champ.
Oh, shoot. All right, let's talk about the Patriots and Bengals. 41.5 point total. New England 10.5 point favorites at home. Tony, who are you playing on the Bengals? It seems like a side you're gonna like.
Here we go. We got that joke in all 14 weeks now.
Week, baby.
Let's verify. Is that the lowest team total? Yep.
All right. Sound for each team.
Stack them.
I do not like any Bengals.
All right.
That's the first two games. I don't even have a player. Like I can't even see any players because they're all X'd out of my pool.
I mean, it's tough to play anybody from this game. Like, I've heard some people talk about Sony Michel. You ain't going to hear any Sony talk on this show. Like, Hoop, do you like anybody in this game?
No, it's. I think the Patriots pound them here, but just no play. I mean, they just have. I mean, it's tough with Sony Michel because they have all their running backs. I mean, the wide receiver position is the one where they need some help, but they have all the running backs they want and need. Wide receiver, I mean, who knows? I mean, the only safe guy is Edelman, but he sounds actually pretty dinged up. Like, usually he's questionable, but then they say, oh, yeah, he's playing today. It's like, well, he's still got to warm up a little bit.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I guess if he was actually to miss, I mean, you might be able to take a shot on some of these cheap wide receivers, but, yeah, I think Edelman plays here. So, it's a good game to catch up on some time or make fun of Tony.
I think it's definitely a good time to make fun of Tony. I don't really care about catching up on time. They can wait for us on the next show. I mean, it is the recap show next.
The Wood recap show, yeah.
True. All right. Houston at Tennessee, 50.5 point total. Tennessee 3-point favorites at home. Sounds like Derrick Henry. He's going to play, though. He's definitely banged up. So, Tony, you always with guys like this, you always seem to fade them because you're always worried about them. Are you fading Derrick Henry today?
But it's the opposite with Henry because literally no one's going to play him. Like everyone says the same thing. He's too expensive. I don't like 30-point games because he doesn't get 7 targets. Like everyone says the same thing. You listen to the same stuff. No one's going to play him again, and he gets 30 points every week. So I am a little concerned though about the injury because he's a bigger dude. I don't know if he's hobbled at all. It's gonna hurt him more than it would hurt other people.
And, if he's hobbled, that just means that it's likely more of the passing game, right? Tannehill and A.J. Brown, they've been on fire lately. And, Hoop, what are you doing with Tannehill? He's priced up over on FantasyDraft. FanDuel, he's way too cheap. Same for A.J. Brown. What are you doing with this Tennessee Titans attack?
Yeah, I mean, they're going to be popular just because of, what we've seen over the course of the last few weeks. Tannehill's look phenomenal. A.J. Brown has, some huge games. The total's up. The price, like you said, the price tag hasn't really come up on Tannehill, especially on like FanDuel. Same with A.J. Brown. He's cheap there. So I think those guys are going to be popular. This game overall, I think, is going to be pretty popular. You got Deshaun Watson. I think these are the two highest home quarterbacks on the slate right here, Watson and Tannehill. A.J. Brown's going to have some ownership. Hopkins will have some ownership, maybe a little less now that Fuller's going to play. If Fuller is out, I think Hopkins is a very popular and strong play. It takes a pretty big hit, though, without Fuller, but I think that boosts Watson a little bit, the fact that Fuller is playing. So I like Watson. I like Tannehill. A.J. Brown, those would be my three top plays. Derrick Henry, I think I agree with Tony. Good tournament play. It's very, very easy. Crane, you were on the Derrick Henry train, I think, before just about anyone.
It was cool.
Gotta give you credit.
Yeah, but then he got off. Don't give him credit.
Gotta give him credit where credit's due, though. He's talking about Henry when, everyone else just kind of writing him off.
I was going to give him credit, but then he got off. You can't just get off.
He got off for like 1 week. He's been off the whole time. He's played more Henry than you and I combined.
I played more Henry than you guys.
Yes.
Eventually it got there for me.
Yeah.
We talk about this
for tournaments, yeah.
Yeah, we talk about this Texan side. Obviously, Deshaun Watson, a phenomenal play against Tennessee. DeAndre Hopkins, you can pair him with. I love pairing with Will Fuller. And Tony, in tournaments where everybody who plays Watson is going to have him with Hopkins, are you going to pair him with Fuller?
I just think it's super easy to play them both, but that's me. Like, if I play Watson, I'm super tempted just to play them both. And one of the things that is going to make this game so popular today is it's just so easy to stack, like we talk about every week. You got the highest total of the day. You got the two most popular quarterbacks, like Hoop said. And you got weapons everywhere that you can stack them with, especially Hopkins and Fuller, and then A.J. Brown the other way, Henry the other way. But it's just super, super easy to just fully stack this game, which people love to do now.
Yeah, it's definitely a very stackable game, especially on FanDuel, where like everybody's way too cheap over there. It's and I'm doing it too. It's just way too easy to differentiate elsewhere. All right, Broncos at the Chiefs, 44.5 point total. Kansas City, 9.5 point favorites at home. We're gonna have some snow here. I checked the weather report. Tony,
this was the snow game. See, right after you said it, I remembered it.
Yeah, I checked it for you though. Don't worry, I got you. I got your back, buddy. Hoop, I'm going to start with you here because on this Chiefs side, Patrick Mahomes in the snow, he likes to throw that deep ball. Do you still have interest in Mahomes, even with the weather here?
Yeah, I think this is the winner of the day. I think it's the Chiefs. Ownership shouldn't be high. I just think this is just a really good spot for the Chiefs overall against the Broncos. I think it's a big letdown spot for the Broncos coming off that win last week against the Texans. Traveling to Kansas City, Tony and I talked about it on the pod. I just cannot see the Broncos getting up back-to-back weeks and coming up with two back-to-back, strong road performances. So I really like the Chiefs. You don't have to worry about them pounding the football with a running back. I think it's Mahomes to Hill to Kelsey, and even some of those speed guys like Hardman, Robinson. They're cheap. You can sprinkle them in, but I really, really like the Chiefs overall today. And if I'm stacking them up, the guy I'd bring it back with would be Sutton, who's just having a phenomenal season despite these these crappy quarterbacks throwing him the football. So I love the Chiefs today overall.
What about you, Tony? Are you on this Chiefs passing attack? Are you underweight on it? What are you doing here?
Yeah, I basically agree with what Hoop said. I think it's good for tournament. It's definitely not like my favorite spot to attack. Like if I was playing one team or even three teams, I don't think I'd have any Chiefs for sure. Like it's definitely not. But all of a sudden, if I'm playing 20 teams, I'm definitely going to play probably 2 or 3 Chiefs stacks just because. They have that upside, and they're not going to be owned. They're in the same price range as that Houston game. Like, people aren't going to play Mahomes in snow over Watson in the high total game. They're just not going to do it. So, he's got high upside, and the whole stack does. And you can play – there's a lot of pieces you can play because I don't like the running game either. It's easy just to not play those guys. So I like it. I like Sutton coming back. And even Fant. Like, Fant has been so freaking good.
Yeah.
Like, Denver's maybe my most – like, as crazy as it sounds, they've impressed me as much as anyone this year. They don't have anybody, and they just constantly play – they're always in games. They almost beat Minnesota a few weeks ago on the road. They pounded Houston last week. You just never know when they're going to show up. So that's a little worry with them. They have played good, but definitely some Kansas City exposure.
I think my biggest preseason miss was saying that Denver was the worst team in football.
A lot of people thought that, though.
I
Like,
was way off on them.
that game last week was just stunning. Like, they pounded Houston.
Yeah, it was a beatdown last week. And, we were on that show last week, and none of us really liked any of the Houston pieces. And, of course, Watson got there at the end because
I swear, like, for the last 4 years, nobody gets more scrub points than that guy. Like, if you're ever up 3 touchdowns on Houston, he's going to be the winner, like, guaranteed.
Apparently, the YouTube chat is slandering the Wood Crew. Ooh, can you confirm?
Who better be defending that?
I got to defend. Let me catch up on the chat while you guys continue to give out the winners.
Hoop is checked out of the show. He's just
I'm going to monitor chat.
Yeah, he's going to moderate chat. That's just how it goes sometimes.
Don't make me come in there, YouTube.
All right, let's talk Miami at the Giants. 44.5-point total. The Giants 3-point favorites at home. And, Tony, we are looking at super chalky Saquon Barkley today. Obviously, the Dolphins have been giving it up to every running back they face. I think Saquon might still be a little bit hurt. What are you doing with Saquon today? Because he's going to be owned in a third tournament lineups.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely the chalk guy of the week at running back. Like, he's in the perfect spot. He's got Eli, who loves Captain Dump Off. Like, he just loves dumping stuff off. And the spot's just really good. Both of these teams should theoretically give up a lot of yards and a lot of points, but the total's kind of low, which does worry me. I mean, the total right now is sitting it is 40, 45 and a half, 46.
That's up. That's up too. It was 44 earlier in the week.
I mean, it's I don't know. Like, I'm torn on this spot because I could see it going a lot of ways. It seems super easy on paper. Laird's going to be very popular. Saquon's going to be very popular. Maybe the two most high-owned running backs in the same game. And, yeah, on paper, this game looks like it should score a ton of points. But I do worry that it could just be a super ugly game where a lot of the chalk kind of lets us down a little bit.
I have the exact same feeling. Like,
it could go either way, though. Like, it could definitely explode, too. So,
yeah, sure.
I'm sure Hoop likes it. Like, are you playing both these guys, Hoop, Laird and Saquon?
Hoop's not playing
It's
Laird.
tough. No, I mean, there's like 5 or 6 running backs in the conversation. You know me, I'm looking at workload, and the guy got like 20 touches last week, and he's still super cheap. So he's in the conversation. But, the thing in the back of my head's telling me, like, man, like, come on, it's the freaking Dolphins. Who the hell knows what they're going to do? I look at these other 2 running backs listed on the lineups page, like Gaskin and Turner. Would it surprise me if Gaskin and Turner somehow got a bunch of work? No. I don't know. I think Laird's risky. I think Saquon's risky, but they're both in play. I mean, the matchup's good. The workload should be there. I hate to agree with Tony once again, but like with Eli, I like Barkley better with Eli at quarterback opposed to Jones. I mean, the last thing Eli Manning wants to do is take a big hit. So if he can just continue to dump it off to Barkley, he'll do that. So I could see a big game for Barkley. I think this is like one of 2 ways for Barkley. I think this is just like either a massive game or just like one of those just complete disappointments where he gets 15 carries for like no yards and gets like 4 catches.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely possible that the explosion happens. I'm rooting for the dud. I'm rooting that he's injured. And let's talk about Patrick Laird really quick, because this is a slate where running back, especially at the top, is incredibly loaded. And Tony, on a slate like this, I'm having trouble clicking a guy like Laird.
Man, I haven't liked him, and it's been just a joke the whole time, like how everyone talks about him. But, man, he got so many touches last week, and now he faces the Giants in a win game where he almost has to get another 20 touches, I think. I don't know. Like, they're going to throw a bunch of dump-offs to him.
Dude, he might be fine, but these running back positions today are valuable.
I agree with that, and I struggle with that almost every week. But if you're not playing Saquon, I don't know. The running back's always the spot where you have your hardest decisions because the players, if you fade the best plays at running back, it's tough sledding when they do good because it's all chalky. But obviously, you can fade any Miami running back. Like, I'm not saying you can't fade him, but he is a good play. I mean, he's going to be chalk for a reason. He's so cheap. He should be. I mean, if we didn't know who it was and like the situation, he's like a $6,500 running back, and he's $4,500. So
he's not a $6,500 running.
He got 20 touches, Crane.
The workload. I mean, the workload is that of a much more expensive running back. Assuming
you didn't know he was a slow white dude, like you would think he was a $6,500 running back. Man, I just showed you the numbers from the last 2 weeks.
I know, I've seen them. I just think that when I look at the other running backs on the slate, I can't play Laird.
Which is fine. I mean, I don't completely disagree with that. I mean, you got to remember, too, though, it's a win game. Like, Ross said the gusts are going to be in the 30s. Like that. How's Eli going to
weather expert? You hadn't even looked 10 minutes ago. Now you know about
I looked after I got made fun of about my snow game, so I looked like 5 minutes ago. But, yeah, it's super windy, and – neither one of these quarterbacks have been known to like throw great balls through stuff like that. So I think there could be a ton of dump offs, which benefits both these running backs and hurts the passing games. Like these passing games are going to be somewhat popular too, right?
Yeah, I mean, you have to figure Devontae Parker's going to get some love. He's healthy again this week. He's going to be active. And Hoop, I'm seeing projected ownership at like 7.5% on FantasyDraft right now. That feels low to me, especially with how good Parker has been. What are you doing with Devontae Parker, even these Giants receivers?
Yeah, I'm not playing any pass catchers. I mean, okay. I'm not a big weather person for football. I think I've made that point pretty clearly. But when you got already two suspect passing games, then you throw in the big wind gusts and guys that, I mean, I'm not super high on as is. Just going to lean on the running backs here, kind of, once again, like what Tony said, unfortunately.
All right, before we go into this next game where Tony's going to want to play all the Washington Redskins, Hoop, I need an update.
I actually do like the Skins. Is that next? I can't wait. This is my game.
Yeah.
Hoop, I need an update on the YouTube chat.
I mean, my people haven't disappointed. I mean, I think they're staying in line. I haven't been able to detect any slander towards the Wood. I mean, the YouTube people support the Wood. And
hey, thank you, YouTube. Yeah. Appreciate that. And you know what? Show us some appreciation, too. Click the like and subscribe button. All right. Philly at Washington, 38.5 point total. Tony wants to stack it up. So it's a 38-point total. Tony, the floor is yours, man. Go for it.
I think it's the perfect game to put the add-on pieces, not the full stack, but you got Philly. I mean, I've talked about this for 3 weeks now. They have no one. They have no bodies. The freaking Aguilar's out again. Their number one receiver today, Arcega-Whiteside and Greg Ward. Arcega-Whiteside literally couldn't get open if Hoop was guarding him. He's that slow. He has no movement whatsoever.
Hoop is sneaky fast.
Yeah,
don't watch him swing a baseball bat, but he can.
Crane just went. He went in on Hoopster. I mean, he went right in there. I like it.
Oh no! I do think I have a chance of locking up these wide receivers.
You can lock up Whiteside. You aren't locking up Ward. He's way too fast.
Well, he might not catch Carson it. Wentz has to throw an accurate pass, and he would still have to catch it. So there's more than just me defending him.
But anyway, so what I was saying is, it's not a full stack. I mean, it's a low total, blah, blah, blah. But, I mean, you got Arcega-Whiteside's 3,300. Greg Ward's 3K. Boston Scott, who looked incredible to me, is 3K. And Ertz and Goddard have the volume. And then I like McLaurin always, coming back. Philly cannot handle guys like McLaurin. Every single week. Last week we saw Slayton destroy him. The week before, Parker destroyed him. I mean, McLaurin he has no quarterback. I'm not saying that. It's an ugly spot. But the man is cheap, and Philly can't stop dudes like this. So I like a ton of pieces in this game, and they're all just too cheap to me. I don't know. The whole game's too cheap.
All right, so you mentioned Terry McLaurin, I agree. That's the kind of guy that burns Philly. I'm just not sure Dwayne Haskins can get it within 20 yards.
He's so bad.
He's terrible.
Did you see that touchdown McLaurin had last week where he had to, like, reach all the way behind him and, like, snagged it with one hand? And like, he has to work so hard for his catches.
Tony, apparently YouTube chat is calling you regular T. That's what I'm hearing. That's
I mean, I did just talk about some of the worst players I've ever talked about in my life.
You know,
is Boston Scott literally going to be 1% though after how good he was?
Probably.
He looked so good Monday night. Like, he's 3K. What if he gets that same volume?
Yeah, I mean, then he's a good play. I don't know. I just don't want to.
And he's 1%. Like, I don't know. Like, I definitely probably like Philly too much just because of the pricing.
Every week you like Philly too much. Every single week. This is a thing.
I agree.
This is your new favorite team. You have the Nuggets, the Thunder, the Lakers, the what other?
Here we
like,
go. All my teams again.
Basketball teams, and then you have the Eagles.
And that, well, yeah,
those are all my teams. I mean,
in the NBA, it's extreme. I mean, oh man, this guy just
one of my teams, the Lakers, is like 30.
Oh, of course.
30
I mean, yeah, it's funny. It's the best teams until they get in the playoffs and lose, and then he goes on to his secondary squad. And it's I'll take the 1 and 2 seed in the West, and it's
easy when I take the two best teams, Denver and the Lakers.
We'll save that for another time. But in terms of the Eagles, like, man, like, this is, I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but I have to agree with Tony once again. I love the Eagles today.
I'm going to win today. Hoop agrees with all my guys.
The Boston Scott thing is, like, weird. Like, no one's even talking about him. Like, why would he not get the same workload? Like,
even if he gets, well,
I'm saying if he gets 12 touches, yeah. I mean, he got a goal line carry over Sanders.
He did have 6 targets too.
Yeah, like,
he looked like I watched
fast,
him. He looked incredible.
Maybe people just didn't watch that game because it was a nasty, it was I mean, I didn't watch the game. I saw a few clips. I didn't watch the whole thing. So that's probably why. Honestly, that is probably why, because it was nasty. Was it Monday night, right?
Yeah, it was an ugly game. I was stunned they won, honestly. That's how bad it was.
Well, that was the Eli game, right? The Eagles and the – oh, yeah.
Yes. I like Sanders, too. Like, he's been so close to some big weeks. Like, I mean, Wentz missed him on the easy dump-off touchdown a few weeks ago. Doesn't score the 2-yard touchdown last week. Boston Scott gets it. I think those two are in play. Like, Ertz, I think, is – if you look at, like, projection sites and whatnot, I just think he's, like, way, like, under-projected this week.
Who do the people think? I know they have a low total, but, like, they have to do something. They're playing Washington.
Yeah, like – Ertz, Goddard.
Even if they score like 17 points, these guys could be on the winner. Like,
I mean, Ertz and Goddard are the guys for me.
Yeah.
That's because it's their only 2 receivers that are decent.
That's what I mean. Like, they're going to line up wide. We saw Ertz last season. He crushed in this situation where all the how does Philly always get wide receivers that are hurt? Like, every single year, Deshaun Jackson and Alshon Jeffrey, they're just like dead.
Their 2 receivers are literally the slowest guy ever and a quarterback. Like, the dude played quarterback at Houston last year. They have no receivers.
Yeah, no. But, I mean, yeah, Ertz, Goddard, Boston Scott. I honestly think the reason the ownership is so low because he played in that nasty game that no one watched on Monday night. If people saw it, he looked good. Like, if people saw what he's capable of doing, if they saw that workload, I think he'd be much higher owned. He's
keep hearing this too. So the chat just keeps saying it. I've heard it all week. He only got work because Sanders was cramping and dehydrated. Did people not watch how explosive he looked? That doesn't matter anymore.
He's getting work today.
He's getting work. All right, let's move on to Tampa and Detroit. 45.5-point total. Tampa 4.5-point favorites on the road. Oop, I'm going to start with you talking about your Detroit Lions because it's either Kenny Golladay or nobody for me here. What are you doing with the Lions?
And Amendola. I like Amendola a little bit too.
That's your boy.
You like him and
I get made fun of for my low totals. How come you don't make fun of him for Amendola, Craig?
Hey, they got a 3-touchdown team total.
What are you talking about? Him and his like short.
You didn't lead into
Cole
it.
Beasley. I get ripped. I get ripped for recommending Cole Beasley, who scores touchdowns like every week.
Every week
you guys destroy me on Beasley, and he dominates.
You name off every white dude that runs across the middle. You got to hit one.
Yeah.
Well, I got Beasley. I got Amendola this week. Yeah, give me Welker out of retirement.
Yeah.
If Edelman's out, Welker's playing. Give me Welker. I like Amendola.
Wait for Wayne Corbett. He's going to show up.
Get them all. Yeah, bring him back. Bring him back. Amendola I like with Marvin Jones out. And then on the Bucs side, Godwin. It's a decision. If you're going up top, Godwin versus Hopkins, I think I lean Godwin. Like him here indoors. Don't have to really worry about any of the weather this week. So I like Godwin. You can take a shot, I guess, on like Pierman or even Watson. But just those guys more for tournaments. I think Godwin is a strong play in all formats this week.
Yeah, Godwin's going to be really popular, of course, today. Great matchup. No Mike Evans there. Tony, are you eating the Godwin chalk?
So I'm one of the weird ones that always – I like it better with two receivers than one. Like a lot of people will like Godwin more this week because Evans isn't there. I'm kind of the opposite. Like I like it when there's two of them because they can't just focus on one of them. I don't know. Like, sure, I like him. I'm not saying I don't. Like Tampa slings the ball around. He's fine. Like, I don't know if I'm just like in love with him though. When it's just him, there's no one else.
Oh yeah,
why would they not double him?
Come on, Tony. You know, smiling. Who's happy?
I just realized you got your hockey hat on. I'm not happy right now. You adjusted the hat.
We're half an hour into the show. You just now looked at my hat?
Yeah, that's not
I should have started with that. Where's Grandma's hat? We can't have No, I don't like Godwin all that much. I don't know.
Come on, you're playing some O.J. Howard, though, right?
I don't mind O.J.
I don't mind him either.
Yeah, I think.
Come on, let's get those losses from best ball back.
He's been good the last 2 weeks now. So yeah, I like it.
Who's playing O.J.? Not in cash.
Hoop is definitely not
playing O.J.
Come on, man.
I planted my O.J. Howard flag in best ball season-long leagues and have not moved. So can't move now. Week 15.
That's all right. It's a sad island, but it's a popular island. All right, Seattle at Carolina, 49.5 point total. Seattle 5.5 point favorites. And Tony, you and I were talking on Monday, and I tried to do a Kyle Allen victory lap for last week, and you shut it down because he got there in such garbage time. I'm going back to the well today.
He tried to take a victory lap last week. Hoop.
Where the fantasy points there?
Just give me a summary. Was it worse than Randone's victory lap on Delvin Cook in 18 points?
That was the worst victory lap.
Yeah, that was a.
He got like 16 points.
He got there.
8.5K running back.
Time too.
All right. So again, Kyle Allen, I'm just going to say it again. Great matchup. Home underdog. You're going to throw it over 40 times. Nobody's going to play him.
I kind of think this game is the sneaky shootout game that no one's going to play because if Carolina can get this is a big if, because if Seattle gets the lead, they're just going to do what they do and run the freaking ball up the middle. So if Seattle can get behind, though, where Carolina and McCaffrey breaks a few early, DJ Moore catches a bomb early, and somehow they can get a 2-touchdown lead or a 10-point lead and Seattle has to throw, this game's going to shoot out like crazy, which is all we need in tournaments. We got tons of pieces, too, where you got a tight end on both sides. You got multiple receivers on both sides. You got Russell Wilson, everything. This game has all the ingredients of winning someone $1 million today in the final or in the other big tournaments that are going today. This game could easily win all the money today, and it's a perfect tournament game to me. You got to get the right script for sure, because if Seattle gets up big early, you're done. The stack is dead. But fall into that right script, and you might win a lot of money with this game.
Yeah, I think it's definitely possible. And I think even if Seattle gets up big, you play Chris Carson with Kyle Allen and DJ Moore and a little Ian Thomas, I think that's fine too. Hoop, what are you doing with this game?
Yeah, I hadn't really thought about it that way, but you guys bring up some good points.
Thank you.
Seattle's they're a frustrating team for DFS because if things are going right, they're just going to pound it. And their play calling out of the gate, I said on the pod, they've had a phenomenal season. But their play calling is so irritating for DFS. They're just so content to have a dirty, nasty game Like I feel like they're like just giving up, not giving up, but like the first half, they want to see how muddy they can, how muddied up they can get the game. And then they will open things up in the second half. So if they can muddy this game up and win 20-13, like they'll take that. So there's a lot of concern. But like you guys said, if the Panthers get a lead somehow, you get Russ Wilson, throwing the ball, running the ball, could be a good spot. Then also like Crane said, you can play the angle of Seattle having the lead with Chris Carson, bringing it back with Allen, DJ Moore, Christian McCaffrey, and a punt tight end that's virtually free around the industry, and Ian Thomas. So a lot of pieces here, a lot of different ways to go. Christian McCaffrey, it's tough this week. I don't think the ownership on him is going to be all that high. I think DraftKings ownership will be higher than FanDuel ownership on McCaffrey. Because the price tag's a little cheaper, and the fact that he's just getting there with these catches. If they're playing from behind, he's going to approach 10 catches like every week. It's crazy. So prefer him on DraftKings opposed to FanDuel for that reason. But a lot of pieces. DJ Moore is great, by the way. Like what a good wide receiver he is. Big prop this week too. His receiving prop is way up there. And the price tag really isn't. His props are coming in like these top tier wide receivers, but his price is still a tier below. So I think DJ Moore is a very strong play this week.
Yeah, I'm all about some DJ Moore, and
I like Lockett a ton too. I think Lockett is going to be so low. You got to talk
about Lockett's price.
I love this game. I'm going to build a bunch of stacks of this game. You got all the pieces.
Lockett has done nothing for a month.
He's been dead, but he looked good last week. The numbers might not show it.
And the price around the industry, especially over on DK, is super high. And DK price is 6.9K. That is a lot.
Yeah.
Dude that hasn't done anything in a month. Like I get it in tournaments. If you want to differentiate, Lockett I think is a really sharp way to go. But just know that he could totally screw you. Totally screw you.
Well, yeah, that's why he's going to be 1%.
Exactly. No, I have no problem with that. All right, Jacksonville at Oakland. Oh, I forgot to tell in the chat, we're having some fun in the Discord chat. They are throwing out random white slot receivers. I love the Brandon Stokely call.
Yeah.
Also, Tony, did you see your new nickname?
No, I have not.
It's Tony Two Snaps with the massive dome. That's what they
Tony
said.
Two Snaps.
Tony Two Snaps.
It isn't the only thing that's massive.
I knew that. That was just a layup. That was a layup for.
Oh boy! All right. Well, moving on to the Jaguars and Raiders. 47-point total. Oakland 6.5-point favorites. And Hoop, we need some news on Josh Jacobs because as it is, we're just kind of sitting here in a holding pattern. If he plays, I think he is an amazing tournament play at no ownership. If he sits, of course, Dwayne Washington is a great play. Hoop, how are you treating this Oakland Raiders situation? Because I think one of these guys is going to go off because the Jaguars defense, as Tony likes to say, they quit. So what are you doing with this Oakland situation?
Yeah, it's tough. It sounds like he is going to play, but there's definitely an injury. Like what he has, is it like a bone in his shoulder or something? It sounds like there is an injury, but he's going to play through it, which makes him kind of risky. They need to win, so I think that's why he is playing. So I don't know. Washington looked good last week, so I think even if he does play, I think Washington gets some more. For me personally, I'm avoiding it. I get the situation's great, but there's so many good running backs without any injury situation to monitor this week in really good spots with good price tags. So, I get the game theory aspect on it, but I'll just play the guys that aren't injured and there's no concern of them missing with really good workloads over Jacobs. But I get it. Like I said, if you're a tournament person,
it sucks that he's a late guy too. Like last week,
because you're jammed up. Yeah, if for some reason on a player you're jammed up, and most of these good running backs are going early today.
I freaking love Jacobs today, man. Tony,
I get it.
Yeah, Tony, are you on Team Jacobs with me?
I agree with Hoop. It's tough to. I like him. If he was a morning guy, and we had the info we need before all the decisions have to be made, I would like him a ton more for sure. Because if I knew he was in, I definitely like the spot. But I don't know. I'm not as – I know I heard he's probably going to play, blah, blah, blah. But I'm not 100% certain he's going to. I don't know. He's banged up pretty good. I think he's only going to play because chasing that rookie of the year a little bit, stuff like that. I don't – why is he going to play? Just because of numbers?
And because he gets to face Jacksonville, so
Yeah, that's what I mean. Just because of numbers, he knows he can crush.
Look, if he is out there and getting a full workload, he's going to put up 150 and 2. Like, why?
I mean,
at 1%
150 and 2 is pretty. I mean, you better play him if he's getting 150.
I am playing him. You kidding me? I love this guy.
So what are you going to do if he gets ruled out?
I'll move to DeAndre Washington. What do you mean? It's simple. This is really easy. Like, if he plays,
okay.
Yeah, everybody, a fractured shoulder, like you haven't done football on a fractured shoulder. Man up, just over there.
I mean, he's pretty banged up. Like, his projection isn't that great. I'm off, Jacob. I'm Xing him out right now.
All right. That's your loss. You know how great I am.
He just got the X.
You know how great I am at picking low-owned running backs. So
receivers, don't be changing the narrative.
I know.
Tyrell, get back to Tyrell.
You can't create the narrative like Tony creates. I mean, Tony's the ultimate narrative creator. He keeps talking about this LeBron James thing.
Don't be going back to hoops. Like, everyone, time for hoops.
Like everyone's calling him washed. Have you seen anyone calling LeBron James washed?
I quote tweeted someone that called him pretty washed.
Who called him washed?
I mean, I quote tweeted somebody.
Yeah,
some random.
I don't know who it was. It was somebody.
Narrative creator. Tony's created this narrative so he can continue to say.
Don't make me dig in here.
By the way, you used it when he had a terrible game. 9 turnovers, no steals, blocks. Like, you didn't even have a good game, and you used your BS narrative.
All right, this Jaguars side, they have quit. That is the narrative that Tony had over a month ago, and he was absolutely correct. Obviously, no DJ Shark today. Minshew likes to throw to the outside. I love both these receivers on the outside, Chris Conley and Keelan Cole. This is right around the time, too, where I gave you guys Keelan Cole's at last year or 2 years ago, and he blew up. Who's smirking?
You're throwing out recommendations from last year.
No, I'm saying it's the same dude.
All right.
Yeah, I like Keelan Cole and I like Chris Conley.
I already gave you credit on Derrick Henry. I can't do any more today.
All right, that's fair. Tony, what do you do with these Jags guys?
Man, I struggle more with Jacksonville. The thing that makes me laugh the most. Finally, I guess people aren't going to play Fournette finally, but Fournette's been chalked.
People are going to
play him again.
He's going to be high. He'll be highly owned today.
The smart people are playing him.
He'll be highly owned.
You're playing him. What? You just love this game, Crane?
No, I said the smart people are playing him. Like that's like the Hoops of the world. I meant.
Ooh, I don't think Hoop's playing him today. Like, Hoop can't be playing this dude.
He's in the conversation. I mean, I prefer the other guys over him for sure, but he's in the conversation. He's in the conversation.
But anyway, yeah, I mean, these receivers are cheap. Like, sure, they're kind of similar to the Philly guys where I'm not super excited about them, but again, they got to throw it somewhere. They're playing Oakland. I look at them a lot like Philly, and I just like the Philly guys more, so that's my issue. I just don't trust Jacksonville. Like, they're so bad. They've quit. I don't know. Like, these guys are fine. They'll probably get 10. Like, I could see Westbrook and Conley both getting 10 points. Maybe they score and get more, but I don't see these guys just breaking the slate by any means. This game feels ugly to me, these two teams.
Yeah, Jacobs going for 150 and 2. All right, Cleveland at Arizona, 49.5-point total. Cleveland, 3-point favorites. And, Hoop, I know you don't pay attention to the helicopter. You ignore it completely. Tony, are you back on the helicopter? You flying away with us?
He missed again last week, didn't he? Who did he have last week?
Wasn't it Aaron Jones? Or no, that was 2 weeks ago that he missed. I forget. Whatever.
I can't remember. Whatever, yeah. I mean, Kyler's a good play for sure. I mean, you got a high total here. You got a good price point, especially on DraftKings with Kyler. Man, I don't know. It's something about Kyler in this offense where I just don't trust it that much. I don't know.
I don't trust it either, and I never know who to pair him with. I hate spots.
The pricing is nice too, though. Like, you got Kirk and Fitzgerald. Like, Fitzy is just so cheap. And maybe his last home game. I like stuff like that. I don't know. Like, you could definitely play Kyler with some of these weapons for sure, but I don't know if it's at the top of my list.
Hoop, are you messing with Kyler today?
I just like the price tag. Like, you can get a guy that has the upside for, like, you know, a couple rushing touchdowns for dirt cheap. Like, if he gets one rushing touchdown, he's there, you know? So, like, if he gets 120-yard, 30-yard rushing touchdown, he barely has to do anything else to get there. So I like him because of the price. And I do actually like the spot. Like I like the Cardinals in this game. I like the Cardinals to score some points. The total's up there. So yeah, I do like him. I think Christian Kirk is the guy to pair him with. I think he has the most upside. He had, the 3 touchdown game earlier on in the season. Just think it's a good spot at home here for the Cardinals. It's one of my plays this week. If I was going to bet, like I love the Cardinals just to win this game outright. But it's just tough because bringing it back, like Odell, there's something not right with him with, the injury. And then, I think he has mental issues to go along with it. So it's, he's a tough guy, but I like Landry. Like I'm a Landry guy. Maybe it's just slot receivers I like. Maybe it's not necessarily just white slot receivers, but Landry's
Brandon Stokely is not walking through that door. Ed McCaffrey is not walking through that door.
But Landry's been good all year, and like that's the guy. That's like Baker's number 1. So, if I'm gonna play Kyler and Kirk, like I love bringing it back with Landry, especially on the full PPR sites. So yeah, I like Kyler, I like Kirk, I like Landry in this game.
This is another good stat game though. Like this game, the total's going up, the total's high. It's kind of like the Seattle game where there's a lot of weapons you can play in this game. Even like in Njoku, Arizona's got killed all year. I know we make fun of the
flow chart.
What is everyone? The flow chart? Yeah. Everyone makes fun of it, but it hits every week.
So, it keeps hitting.
Like, I get that it's a joke and maybe it's not true, the regression, all the numbers that people talk about these days, but it hits every week, which I like. And Njoku is in that same spot, and he's going to be unowned. This game could easily – the Cleveland stack to me is pretty sneaky with Baker, Landry, Njoku, Beckham. I think that stack, you could be sitting pretty nice on that late stack.
I don't hate Odell.
Yeah, I mean, he's a loony bird, but
he's a crazy person. There is a world where Baker wants him to stay on the team and wants to keep him happy and feeds him the hell out of the ball. I'm not saying it's a cash play.
I don't think he wants him to be there. Like, how could you?
I don't know. I mean, Baker's kind of a jerk. Odell's kind of a jerk. Maybe they're buddies. I don't know. But
Baker's like a cocky jerk, though. Like, Beckham's like just a
You don't think
moron.
Beckham's a cocky jerk?
Yeah. Beckham's like a loony, though. But Beckham needs to go join freaking AB.
Yeah.
So, they need to both go to the XFL.
I would watch that
partner up on the next their next XFL team.
Yeah.
St. Louis Battlehawks. Let's go, baby. Go XFL. All right. I'm just saying there is a world where Odell smashes today at 1% ownership. All right. We got 4 games left in 12 minutes. Sorry, recap show. We might not make it through the games. Our apologies. You're not going to know what to do on the late games. Minnesota at the Chargers, 45.5 point total. Minnesota, 1.5 point favorites. And Tony, we're running it back with Dalvin this week, baby.
The funny thing is, a lot of the teams I've built so far, I get just because I like those Eagles guys that are super cheap. I like a few other guys that aren't super expensive where I can fit 2 high-priced running backs in there, and Dalvin just keeps hitting my builds. And I kind of like it. I'm starting to talk myself more and more into it. I usually like these guys just at home, like Dalvin on the turf. But with Madison out, he's going to get the full workload. Minnesota needs to win. The Chargers have been known to lay big-time stinkers. Everything kind of lines up for Cook where I definitely like Cook a lot.
Welcome aboard, baby. Hooper, you going to make it 3 for 3 on Dalvin?
I like Dalvin every week, so yeah, I'll complete the trifecta. I mean, I don't think I'll necessarily be playing him, but I do like him because he's in a kind of like a pricing tier of his own. Like if people are going to spend up, they're going to go all the way up to McCaffrey. If they're not going to go all the way up there, you got all these guys in the mid 7s to upper 7s. You got the Fournette, you have Barkley, you have Chris Carson, who will all be super popular. I think Cook gets lost in the shuffle, and he's been the second best running back in football this year. So I really like him here.
Yep, I love me some Dalvin today. And on the Chargers side, it's tough to get excited about any of these guys. If you think Minnesota puts up a lot of points and you think they maybe get out to a lead, Austin Eckler in tournaments, I mean, the dude just keeps producing and nobody's playing him. Tony, are you on Eckler with me?
Again, running back, man, it's the hardest every week, but especially this week. There's a lot of good plays. You have to trim your pool, and you have to just choose.
He was the highest scoring running back last week.
He caught like a 90-yard touchdown or something. Of course, you can fall into the script. I mean, I could name probably 20 running backs today that could be on the winner. So you just have to pick and choose. Eckler's definitely not going to be one of the ones I choose. But, sure, there's a world where he's on the winner for sure.
All right, Rams at Cowboys, 48.5-point total. Boy, these late games are so much better for fans.
Yeah, there's some pop in the late stuff.
Hoop, I feel like I'm supposed to like guys from this game, and I just don't. You can, of course, play Robert Woods. He's been getting a lot of love lately. Tyler Higbee, of course, at tight end with no Gerald Everett there. They've been scheming to get him open, so I don't hate Higbee. Hoop, what are you doing for this game?
I love the Rams side here for just the game and for DFS. I mean, I think I'm going to talk you into it. Just bear with me here for a minute.
You're going to need to, because right now I have shares of the Cowboys defense.
Oh, man. So they've consolidated their offense. I mean, Cooper Kupp, if things are going right for him, Cooper Kupp, not on the field. Brandon Cook, not on the field. They're running this two tight end set, and it's leaving Robert Woods as basically like their only real wide receiver out there. They're not throwing the ball to Reynolds. Like I said, Kupp and Cooks on the sideline. Like, I think Robert Woods is like the best wide receiver play on the slate. Higbee has been the best tight end the last 2 weeks. I mean, this is assuming they continue to run this set, which I'd imagine they do because it's been so successful for them the last couple weeks. And then you got Gurley, who's apparently back to like getting this massive workload. I don't think Gurley's great, don't get me wrong, but if he's going to get 25 to 30 touches at 6K, like, sign me up. Like, it's a consolidated offense. They're supposed to score 25 points. Like, I love all three of those guys a lot. Am I crazy, Tony?
I agree. Like, again, I watch all the games.
This is a spot if you're watching the games and paying attention and not just looking at the overall numbers of these guys. Like, I think there's an edge to be had here.
Which is exactly me. Like, I've always been more of a field player. I'm not as big into numbers as other people. I watch all the games. The Rams looked incredible the last 2 weeks, and it was because of Woods and especially Higbee. Like, Higbee fell on the 1 yard line last week, or he'd have been another touchdown. I mean, he's looked incredible. I still don't like Gurley, but I agree on the workload. I'll probably stick with Woods and Higbee just because you get so much freaking volume. I love it. I mean, the Rams have looked really good to me the last
Cooper Kupp played 19 snaps last week, right?
Yep.
19.
26% of the snaps last week. I will say this, Jared Goff, if you look at his splits, home road, that's very noisy. But
yeah, no, I get that.
Here's the thing about Goff. He struggles when teams are able to get to him. Cowboys are a top 10 pass rushing team, and that's in tournaments. I do not hate the Cowboys at a cheap price tag. Tony, speaking of the Cowboys, if you like the Rams, are you playing anybody from the Dallas side?
Dallas, whew. I mean, I've been trashing them all year. I just hate Dallas. I think they suck. And it is a good – I'll say this. Just looking at the numbers, like looking at the spread, everyone's going to be on the Rams because the Rams have looked good. So just according to the spread, nothing else, I think Dallas is in a good spot. But, man, I can't pull the trigger on it. I hate Dallas.
I think if you're playing Dallas, it's not Amari Cooper, it's Michael Gallup. That's the guy that I like. In fact, I don't hate like a Dak to Gallup stack.
I like Gallup way more than Cooper too.
Yeah, like no ownership. I mean, again, home dog quarterbacks typically overperform. You look at Michael Gallup; he's going to have a much better matchup with Jalen Ramsey shadowing Amari Cooper. So to me, I think Gallup's a really solid play in tournaments that nobody's going to.
I think if you're playing tournaments, I think a really smart thing to do today. So if you go ahead and assume the Rams are in this game and, it's not a Cowboys blowout. So if the Rams have the lead in this game or if it's a competitive game, so you can get Gurley, Woods, Higbee. If you go Gurley, Woods, that's $12,000. If you add Higbee in, that's $16,000 using DraftKings pricing. Like, you can get in an entire offense, like everything they do for under $16K. I think getting 2 or 3 of those pieces in every tournament team is something I'd be looking to do today. I don't know. I just feel pretty strongly about this.
Yeah, you definitely this is some hoop conviction.
But I mean, seriously, you think about it. Like, if it's a competitive game, they're going to do what they've done the last 2 weeks.
They're not getting blown out anyway.
Exactly. So the last 2 weeks, everything's gone through Gurley, Woods, Higbee. Their entire offense is going through those 3 guys. So if this game's competitive, everything's going through those three guys, and you can get this entire offense for dirt cheap. Like, I think they should. I think if you're playing tournaments today, you should have 2 or 3 of those guys in every single one of your lineups.
All right. Atlanta at San Francisco, 48.5-point total. San Fran, 10.5-point favorites at home. I'm not messing with the Falcons side. And Tony, Raheem Mostert, like, the dude just keeps crushing it, man. Like, what is that the only guy you're looking at in San Fran?
Well, I'm looking at my boy Kittle for sure.
Are you wearing the jersey?
No, I got Eli on today.
You have an Eli Manning jersey?
Oh, man.
Eli Day. I got a bunch of jerseys. Man. You never know. When a guy wins you cheese, you buy the jersey.
This is the wood show, Tony. Just to remind you, bud.
Oh, my.
You want to know how I got it? I got it before the Super Bowl when I was going to bet the Giants against crappy Patriots, and he came through for me, so I kept it.
So I kept it.
That's great.
Yeah,
so you didn't return that like you did the March Madness TVs.
I kept it till the next Super Bowl when he worked Brady again, so I got it. I got it from his 2 Super Bowl titles. But,
all right, so we like Mostert today and Kittle, I assume.
Yeah, and man, so Mostert, like, all of a sudden people are gonna get on him now. I feel like he's gaining a little traction just because of that price point. There's been some coach talk that he's kind of taken over the role. He just looks good. Like, he's another guy. If you watch the games, he just looks electric out there. An unknown guy today too that I think is washed is Julio. Like, can we run it back with Julio?
You can. You can always play Julio. Like, every time you can play Julio.
He washed, though, I guess, is the issue?
No, he's not washed.
More washed narrative. Man, where are you getting your washed narratives from? Can you move on to something different?
I mean, this is me saying
everyone's washed.
Don't make me pull up my quote tweet again.
And Tony digging through. I can't believe Big T is I'm going to go through someone's Twitter timeline and find old tweets.
I'm not going to
he turned into that guy. Who are you, Davis Maddock or something now?
I'm not going to throw anyone under the bus. I'm not going to throw anyone under the bus, but someone sent that to me.
Oh gosh, yeah. Big T's burner account. Big T 84 sent it.
Yep. Tony at Tony 2 Snap sent it.
Tony 2 Snap. Oh, look at him. Look at his face. Yeah, just shake that dome. Shake those 2 snaps.
I'm not the one that said LeBron sucks. Like,
I've always said that.
I understand that.
I'm sorry, but Tony 2 Snaps is the greatest nickname.
Tony 2 Snaps.
Like, that's an amazing nickname.
I mean, that is a compliment to me. So I hope that is my nickname. A compliment.
I'm not making fun of you. It's a good nickname.
Yeah, I like it. I'm in for it.
At Tony 2 Snaps is his.
I'm changing my DFS handle right now.
Oh man! All right, yeah, we like Mostert, we like Kittle. We're moving on to the Sunday night game because we got to get out of here in a second. Bills at Steelers. Oh my God, we don't need 2 minutes to talk about this game. 36.5-point total. The Steelers are 1-point favorite. Hoop, I know you're not playing anybody in this game.
This is not a fun game.
Actually, you know who's probably going to play guys from this game, Hoop?
Oh yeah, both team totals under 19, which is rare.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously though, who's funnier than you two? Like, you guys are hilarious.
This is the Big T special.
This is rare. I mean, honestly, there's not many games where both teams have team totals under 20. Like, this has to be the spot.
Let's
hear it.
Spot.
Let's hear it, Eli.
So we've done me and Head Chopper have done the showdown shows for 2 years now. Every single game.
You just cancel this week's?
And it was literally the hardest one I've ever done. And this game is so bad. Even for showdown, like, it's hard to play people.
2 playoff teams.
Thank you for bringing this up, because Crane last week on the show told me that AFC is better than the NFC, and these 2 teams are in the playoffs.
The top of the AFC is better than
they're in the playoffs. 6 teams get in.
I look at the top tier, man.
Oh,
the 2 best teams.
So New England? New England's the second seed.
Baltimore and Kansas City.
So 2 teams?
Yes, that's all I care. I don't care about who's going to get waxed in the wild card round.
Fair.
2 teams. So because of Baltimore and Kansas City, the AFC is better than the NFC.
Yes, they're going to win. Yeah. Boom. Point Crane.
Definitely
you're
not.
Tony one snap now. All right, we got to get off here. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Thanks, Fantasy Draft, for sponsoring the show. Been a lot of fun. Hoop, you still in the YouTube chat?
Yeah, just logged out. Good times with my friends over at YouTube. Kept them.
All right. Well, if you're over there, click like and subscribe. We appreciate y'all joining us for Hoop. We're Tony Two.
Tony, can we get a little windmill real quick? We really haven't gotten you this season. No? Ooh, all right.
All right, fine.
You guys made
Boo!
Oh, man. Hurt his feelings.
Only 12 snaps now. All right. Catch y'all later. Bye.
What's up, guys? Week 15. We're back with 6 of my favorite plays for you over on Yahoo, including a running back on the high end I think is going to be completely ignored. One on the low end I think you can go to today. Our favorite wide receiver quarterback pairing, and my favorite play of the week. Who is it? Belly up to the fantasy bar and find out.
Hey Grinders, big news! RG Chat, we switched over to Discord. Now in order to participate, click the link in the orange box above the chat window. If you already have a Discord account, simply log in. If not, you need to create an account here and then click Authorize. Once you've logged into Discord, before you can send your first message, you'll be prompted to click Authorize one more time. After that, you're all set. It's that simple. Sign up today and we'll see you in the chat.
Welcome in, guys. Week 15 edition. The season continues to cruise right by, but we're back here in the fantasy bar. 6 guys ready for you over on Yahoo. Before we get into things, guys, need a couple of favors. First of all, subscribe to the channel. Then you know when the videos are coming out. We also do a FanDuel and DraftKings video as well as NBA 6-pack. So make sure you subscribe. Tons of other great videos as well from the team over at RotoGrinders. And if you enjoy your time at the fantasy bar, as I always say, take a second, click that thumbs up button, guys. Let's see how many thumbs up we can get on the video, and I appreciate it. Now, let's take a quick look back at Week 14. Not our best performance. Some hits, obviously, Pascal, nice value. Derrick Henry got it done for us, but all in all, not the best week. Let's turn things around here in Week 15. We can be better. We're going to be better, and here we go at wide receiver to lead us off with Jarvis Landry, $23. So the Browns in a very good spot here, and I think there's a lot of ways you can go with the Browns. If you want to roll the dice with Odell Beckham, I certainly understand that. I don't think he'll have a ton of ownership here, but Landry's been the guy for this Browns offense, averaging over 10 targets per game, dating back to the last 7 games. So not a 1 or 2 game fluke. This has been the guy for Baker Mayfield, and you look at the Vegas lines. We're talking a 48-point total here. We're talking about a 2-point spread. It's definitely a game you're going to want to load up on, and I want to do that with the Cleveland passing attack. Cardinals, 6th most fantasy points allowed to the wide receiver position. Landry been very consistent in targets, finding the end zone more than we're used to over the course of his career. And there's going to be points scored here. I think a big reason why Jarvis Landry against this Cardinals weak secondary. All right, we like Jarvis Landry. That means we also like his quarterback here. Going to go with Baker Mayfield, $29. So again, we mentioned the scoring in this game, the total. I think all of that obviously attractive, but I also think we're going to get some recency bias here with Baker Mayfield. You look at the last couple game logs, nobody's going to want to go to this guy. And a lot of people, as we say, that's what they're going off of. They're looking at those box scores. Last few are disappointing. Let's look elsewhere. Obviously, we're going to look deeper and we're going to look into the matchups. We're not just going to look at the last week or two. And what I've seen over the last couple weeks that's been impressive, finding the end zone on the ground. I know it's only 2 in the last 4, but if this guy can add 1, 2, 3, or those touchdowns with 6 additional points to what he does in the air, that is going to be huge for Baker Mayfield. We generally like the mobile quarterbacks, the guys that add value on the ground, the Lamar Jacksons, the Josh Allens. So if he gives us anything in that department, it's a bonus, and I think he can do that here once again against this Arizona defense. No team giving up more fantasy points to quarterbacks over the course of this season than the Arizona Cardinals. Nice indoor conditions. We don't have to worry about weather against a bad defense in a big game for Cleveland. I think Baker Mayfield shows out against his old college teammate Kyler Murray. Shootout here in Arizona. Love Baker Mayfield at $29. All right, let's go to the running back position. This one's going to be for some, not for others. Only $18 here on running back Joe Mixon of the Bengals. Now, most of you are probably saying, why the hell are we targeting a running back against the New England Patriots? I get it. They have been outstanding against running backs this season. But Joe Mixon, even in losses, even in games they've gotten blown out, the Baltimore game, this guy has gotten a ton of work, and the production really starting to go with that, obviously. The more touches you get, the more production you're going to get. Not tough math there. So, Joe Mixon going to get the ball, whether Cincinnati is competitive, whether they are falling behind, he can get involved in the passing game. I think there's a lot of avenues for Joe Mixon to exceed this small $18 salary. If he's $25, I'm not playing him, but under $20, I think there's plenty of meat on that bone where we can make it work here, even in a tough matchup. And a tough matchup also means low ownership. What I really think happens here, New England, I know, they're the team of the decade, no doubt. They're a team that's always focused, but I think they could get caught here kind of sleeping at the wheel. A game in Cincinnati against a bad team, a showdown with Buffalo looming next week in Week 16. I really think Cincinnati can hang in this game. And how do they hang in this game? They ride their workhorse running back here. So again, not a play for everybody, not a cash game play, but in tournaments, I think you get very low ownership here on Joe Mixon. It's really come to life here over the last few weeks. I think he has another big game under the radar, and the price point, tough to beat, at only $18. All right, moving on to our fourth play. We're going to go to the tight end position. This price kind of shocked me. We're going to go with Zach Ertz, only $20. And I know it has a lot to do with the game and a very low total in this game, but I look at the targets for Zach Ertz. We're talking about 11 targets per game over the last 5. I'm looking at the Eagles at wide receiver. Alshon Jeffrey, done for the year. We know Deshaun Jackson, out for the year. Nelson Aguilar, looking very unlikely to play once again here this week. We're talking J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. We're talking Greg Ward. These guys are awful. So what the Philadelphia Eagles are going to do, just like they did last week, rely on their horse, rely on their stud tight end, and that's Zach Ertz. Also like Dallas Goedert, but he's only a few dollars cheaper here on Yahoo. When you get a big discount, I roll with Goddard. But if it's only a few dollars here, we're going to go with Zach Ertz. And Washington, awful against the tight end. Bottom 10 in the league in fantasy production allowed to Philadelphia. A must-win spot here for the Eagles. I think they really rely on Zach Ertz once again here. $20, just way too cheap here over on Yahoo. All right, let's go to the wide receiver position again. We're going to go with Kenny Golladay of the Lions, $28. So like Philadelphia, the Lions' weapons are starting to fall off. TJ Hawkinson went on IR a couple weeks ago. Now Marvin Jones on IR as of this week. That means a lot of Kenny Golladay, who's been good with David Blau. We're talking about 2 starts here, 2 touchdowns for Kenny Golladay. So obviously looking for his number 1 option. And that was against Chicago and Minnesota. Yes, Minnesota's had their issues in the secondary. Chicago's not been the elite defense, but I will easily say both of those defenses are way better than what Detroit's going to face this week with the Tampa Bay Bucks, especially in that secondary. This team easily leading the league in fantasy points allowed to the wide receiver position. It's not even close. It's 4 points per game more than the next lowest team giving up to the wide receiver. So Detroit not down to much here. The running game hasn't been able to get going, and you don't really run against Tampa. You throw the ball. I think we get a lot of targets here for Kenny Golladay, imagining 12-plus targets, finding the end zone again, and easily cruising over 100 yards in this game, and easily paying off that $28 price tag.
What is going on, RotoGrinders? Dean here at Dean7904 if you want to get all technical on me. I'm back. I was gone last week. I'm back this week. Hopefully, I believe Head Chopper filled in. I'm sure he filled in masterfully. Of course, it's 10:10 on the East Coast, 7:10 on the West Coast, 9:10 Tennessee time, which, of course, is time for the flagship show here at RotoGrinders. It's called GrindersLive. It's sponsored by Yahoo. And today, Grant, you have to interrupt you're checking out the top 25 products at Costco. This is our pre-show conversation. We have to ready for it?
Oh, I was just prepared to talk about Costco for now. Gosh, I love that place.
I love
Fun
Costco
fact,
too.
You don't even have to have a membership to go there. All you do is find someone with a membership, have them buy you a gift card, and you can use that there.
Look at you with the loopholes. Nicely done.
Yeah.
Or spend $50 for the entire year.
I mean, that adds up over the course of 1,000 years. That's $50,000, Steve.
Sure. Well, how long do you plan on living?
I don't know, at least a millennium.
What's going on, Grant? How are things in your world?
Pretty good. And don't know how I feel about this slate. It's not bad. It's not great. It seems pretty cut and dry.
Does it?
Does it, Dean? Does this go back to our pre-show?
It does. It does. This is just for me and you and Devin. Not for Tuttle because Tuttle was a few minutes late. What's up, Tuttle? How's life in your world? How was Chop last week? Was he nice to you guys?
Yeah, I mean, we didn't get 30 minutes of body parts, but it was good.
We don't get trust me, if I made a body parts list for this slate, we would never start the show because a lot of dudes are hurt. Tuttle, it feels like a week 17, is it not?
Kind of. We get a lot of cheap guys you can consider. I think a lot of them are not very good plays that will still draw some ownership, which is actually kind of nice. Yeah, kind of like a glimpse maybe of a week 17, but not the full week 17.
Yeah, obviously, there's no more buys. We're coming down the home stretch here. Yahoo sponsored the show. They had the night game. I don't know if we care about the night game so much, but Yahoo, it's on the slate for what it's worth. We got Buffalo playing this evening. They're playoff teams. How is Pittsburgh a playoff team? What have I missed? When did this happen? But good for them. I guess they traded for Kirkpatrick, I suppose. But, that's on the main slate, for Yahoo, Buffalo, and Pittsburgh for what it's worth. And, do you want to throw out the names? The people that the promos, the shout-outs. That's what I was trying to get to. I was pulling up the promo page, and I don't know if you know this, Tuttle. Grant, I'm sure you know this, but if you rock the RG badge, you wear the RotoGrinders badge, we have to incentivize y'all. You get yourself 1 month free of RG Premium. You finish in the top 10 of a certain contest. We like to give a shout-out to those that are doing so, those that have done so in the last day or so. We have Iceman 10,000, Grinders Baby, and DraftKings. What's up, Grant? We talking this late? You ready?
Yeah, I've been ready. I've been ready all day. I've been up for 4 hours. I've been drinking Mountain Dew.
I thought you had an energy drink pre-show you were showing us.
I think I was just quoting Hot Rod, or I was quoting Talladega Nights. I'm amped up. I've been drinking Mountain Dew all day.
Did you have a crepe as well? They're delicious.
Oh, gosh. Those thin little pancakes.
Yeah. Just say you like crepes. It's not that hard. All right. So give me the screenshot, Grant. What are we thinking as far as this slate? You said it's kind of cut and dry, and I think there's a lot of tricky decision points, which it's probably a more fun slate to make for tournaments than it is to kind of settle on your cash lineup because you can make multiple arguments. And I guess you're more of a tournament player these days. I'm not really sure. What are you up to these days as far as lineup building?
I do everything every single week for every single sport that's on.
Okay. Well, give me your screenshot.
A screenshot for cash, it's fairly easily. You want a few pay-up spots at running back, I think, over on Yahoo. You can make a decision. It's kind of deciding between 3 pay-up running backs or 2 pay-up running backs and layered on most sites, which is a weird thing to say. We have guys that are just getting the entire line share of the offense or in great matchups or both. It's a pretty cut and dry spot at running back for cash. For wide receiver, you go with a cheap guy in pretty much everything. There is merit to paying up for a guy like Godwin or a guy like Hopkins, but I think predominantly the running backs get more present or more whatever than the wide receivers do. So I'm paying down at wide receiver. And then at tight end, it's still, I think you stay in the 3K range with either Ian Thomas or Higbee. At QB, seems to be Murray is too cheap on all sides, considering that he's playing in a dome, considering the matchup, considering his upside. For cash, it's a fairly simple like build on almost every single site here, and I don't think it's terribly tough. In tournaments, there's absolutely some great like full team stacks all over the place. We have guys that are going to draw a lot of ownership. That is an easy pivot away. Yes, they have some upside, but when you consider their ownership, it's an easy pivot to other guys with similar upside that people just aren't going to use. So we'll get to that eventually, but that's kind of the overview of the slate.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think it's hard to settle in on 3 running backs. That's kind of sort of where I'm at. But there's definitely a pool of like 5 or 6 that I'm considering, and that's basically it for cash. Tuttle, what say you as far as your screenshot in this slate?
Yeah, I'm with you, Dean. I think there's a handful of running backs that you can play in cash. And I'm in agreement with Grant that it's an excellent tournament slate. I think there's a lot of different ways you can go with stacking. I think there's a lot of different high upside plays. It's an interesting week. We got both championships this weekend for DraftKings and FanDuel, so it'll be interesting to see how ownership is split out in those specifically.
Yeah, that's actually a good call because I know on FanDuel, I guess can they not enter contests there because they're in Puerto Rico? I'm not really sure how it's going down if that affects ownership. Cal's there. Good luck, Cal.
They have it in Puerto Rico because you can play in Puerto Rico, right?
I don't. According to Twitter,
used to be able to, and now you can't. I don't think it's.
Oh, you can't anymore.
I think it's regulated there, so I think certain sites you can. Maybe FanDuel is one of those. There's obviously like each state and each. I can't remember what Puerto Rico is. Municipality. I don't know. I can't remember.
That would be such a FanDuel move to have a final at a place you can't play DFS.
I mean, I think everyone just pre-regged for all the contests before they left.
Right.
Yeah. So whatever it is, good luck to everybody out there that's playing. Obviously, lots of money to go down. So Grant mentioned Kyler Murray, and yeah, Yahoo specific, he's way too cheap. DK specific, he's way too cheap, as far as I can tell. You love dome games this time of year. Cleveland, a pretty fair opponent as well. And I don't think there's any quarterback we necessarily love that you actually have to have. It's kind of wants versus needs for me, Tuttle. And we always have. There's never really a quarterback to have me 20% owned. I'm pulling up our ownership stuff right now. Jamino and his team, of course, work on that all the way up the lock. We can screen share that. Sure, why not show the people, see what's going on, get a peek as the paywall. And, Murray, as of right now, I see on DK at 13%. On Yahoo, I'm seeing him at 14%. Is that where we're looking as far as our cash games right now, or are we looking elsewhere?
Yeah, I think Kyler, where he's cheap, is the guy that's jumping out for sure. I think the one site where it's kind of up in the air would be FanDuel. Again, pricing a little bit more suppressed there, so it's easier to hit some of these other guys, some of these higher priced options. You could even do like a Russell Wilson in cash, I think, on FanDuel if you so pleased. But yeah, there's only a $500 difference between Kyler and Russell on FanDuel, or even if you wanted to go the Deshaun Watson route as well. So I think FanDuel is really the place where you'll see more spread out ownership in cash. I think on DraftKings and Yahoo, you'll see a lot of ownership concentrated on Kyler and cash.
Yeah, you mentioned Wilson. He's been like pedestrian, 6 of his last 7 starts or something like that. And that Seattle offense, they're more than happy just to run the ball for 4 or 5 yards every single time. But if they let him throw it, I'm excited. But he's one of the most frustrating players. You just want them to be behind like 14-0 from the start, and then all of a sudden game on. But you mentioned, you're right. And FanDuel, I don't really know who to play at quarterback for my cash lineup. And it's like the last thing I'm filling out. Is that kind of what you're saying as well?
Yeah. And people will play Tannehill too on FanDuel, I should say. Mm-hmm. I think people will play him everywhere. But yeah, I think FanDuel is a toss-up, and I'm still kind of debating where to go myself. And I think it kind of is almost one of those last spots. You have your price ranges you can go, and then just kind of fill in with whatever salary you're left over there.
Seeing Murray here at 13%, Deshaun Watson, that matchup against the playoff implications, Houston versus Tennessee. We got a big total there, 50.5 as well. Grant, come in here. And also, Tanny on the other side is going to be popular. Winston, in the dome, nice matchup, you'd think, but I'm just a little bit concerned about a guy who loves to throw interceptions as is, and he was throwing tennis balls earlier this week to get his arm right, which kind of concerns me in some degree. Of course, he lost Mike Evans, one of his big weapons as well. So, I mean, he's sort of in the tournament picture for me, but it kind of falling back to some degree. Mahomes, is it guaranteed snow in KC today? Is that what we're seeing as far as Ross weather? But I don't know if that necessarily means good or bad because, the receiver knows where he's going, the DBs don't. And, Hill makes one little subtle move, and all of a sudden he's like, little shake and bake. It's a callback to the old Talladega Nights, and he's gone for 90 yards. Jump in here, Grant. Your quarterbacks, who's popping for you?
So the 6 top owned quarterbacks are all fine options, but I'm not in love with any of them for tournaments outside of Murray, even though he's going to be high ownership. So we got Murray there as the highest owned guy. I think that he's still a good tournament option just because, 13% ownership isn't too much here, and the ancillary pieces outside of Kirk are not going to be that heavily owned. I think this is a perfect week to pair him with Fitz at his low price tag. They've had some tough matchups. Kyler Murray's been injured a bit. It's a whole whirlwind of just bad scenarios that have happened with Kyler Murray since his decent start and with Fitz' decent start. So I still do like him quite a bit for tournaments just based on his ownership, or based on his price tag, the fact that you can cheaply pair him with other guys. And I think with the fact that so many good running backs are very viable this week, you go with guys that are cheap team stacks. So Watson, Tannehill, Winston, Mahomes, Dak, where most people are going to end up going. And I think they're all fine, but they're not really the right build as people are going to kind of go the same direction. Where I'm looking at, I have 4 guys I'm absolutely in love with for tournaments. The first guy is Jared Goff. He's 6.1K. That's too cheap. Again, we know that he's terrible versus very good defenses and absolutely amazing versus very bad defenses. This is somewhere in the middle here, but it's being played in a dome, which is big. We know where most of the volume is going. Cooks is basically phased out of this offense. Kupp, to a decent extent, is not really heavily involved in this offense just because they want to run the ball more, and so they go with more tight end sets. They go with different personnel just based on the fact that they want to be able to run the ball, and they're probably going to do that against Dallas. They give up a high volume of targets to opposing tight ends and running backs, and we have Gurley that's being more involved in this offense. Yes, he may get a touchdown snake, but he's too cheap. So pairing Gurley, Higbee, Woods all in the same lineup with Goff, it's a great team stack that doesn't cost you nearly as much money as it should. Next up, we have Minshew. We know exactly where the ball's going there. It's going to Fournette. It's going to Dede. It's going to Conley. All are too cheap. All allow you to pay up for other guys. Absolutely love Minshew, and he's going to go under-owned. Baker going up against Arizona, they may end up running the ball a decent amount in this game, but it's being played in a dome. We know where Baker's probably going. It's Njoku, it's OBJ, and it's Landry, all of which are just a little bit too underpriced and aren't going to draw nearly the ownership that they should. So Baker is an absolutely fantastic play. And then lastly, we have David Blau going up against Tampa Bay. He doesn't have many receiving options at all. He doesn't have any running game at all. He's going up against the worst or one of the worst passing defenses in the league and the best run D. So that's going to make it pretty easy that he's probably going to throw the ball 40 times in this game. It's just going to happen here. Winston going to throw some picks, so he'll be in decent field position a few times. We saw it against Indy, last week, 2 weeks ago, where they just got set up in great field position because Winston makes a mistake. And so it's going to happen with Blau. He may not be great. He may not have the highest completion percentage. But Galladay is absolutely going to feast here. He's not going to draw nearly the ownership he should. Blau is going to go for 300 yards and probably 3 touchdowns here at incredibly low ownership, and we know exactly where those targets are going. They're going to Amendola. They're going to Galladay.
That's Mr. Blau. That's his name. That name again is Mr. Blau. Is that what you're talking about?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I know exactly what you're referring to there. Nicely done.
I'm more of a Plow King guy myself. Yeah, so, man, there was a lot going on there, Tuttle. Rebut, because he threw out a bunch of names.
I'm not going to rebut all of it. The one thing I'll say, I like the other side of the Goff game. I like Dak a lot. I think he's kind of climbing his way to the top of my favorite tournament options.
Who are you pairing him with is what I want to know.
I think you can play on site specific. I think on DraftKings, Amari's really cheap. Gallup's really cheap. I think overall Gallup's cheap across the industry. He would be my preferred pairing, but I do think you can pair him with Amari as well. I think people will avoid Amari because of the Jalen Ramsey narrative. Ramsey actually has not been all that great this year. If you look at the number one receivers he's faced when he's been with the Rams, it's not a very good list. Julio Jones, I think, is the top of that list, but Jones actually put up a decent game, I think 93 yards or so. I just like the overall pace of that game in general. I agree. I like the Rams offense as well. And I think surprisingly that, even though it's going to be the fastest paced game of the day, top 4 slate, or 2 of the teams with top 4 paces in the league, I think people are going to slide and over to that Cleveland Arizona game more so, and in some other spots as well. So I think the Dallas side of that ball is going to be under-owned specifically. I think Rams will still garner some ownership. Grant also had an interesting point, and we can talk more about it once we get to receivers if we want. But he mentioned kind of the trend we saw last game with the Rams going more 2 tight end sets. I think that's interesting in terms of a tournament scenario, just because do we know if that's, we know the reasoning for it, but it's tough to extrapolate. Is that going to be a one-game thing, one-game strategy, or is that something they're going to kind of continue on?
Which
and I
team?
think the Rams. I think the general consensus is that they're just going to continue to run 2 tight end sets and keep Cooper Kupp off the field. And I don't know if that's the correct assumption. I think it's a fine assumption, but if that assumption is going to keep everybody off Cooper Kupp, I think he's a very, very interesting tournament option on the slate.
But they're asking for max price, and you're not necessarily guaranteed max snaps. And they had success. They won. And this is like I didn't watch the game. I was away. So I was that was one of the things I was trying to catch up on and try to figure out. It's like why Cooper Kupp was on, 29% of the snaps last week. Woods, of course, was 99%. And they had Reynolds at 66% and Cooks, 39%. And is that going to continue? And we saw Kupp the week before at 72%. And he's kind of gone working in the wrong direction. And I'm not willing to play that. I'm not willing to click that button. But you're right. We don't know for sure that's the way it's going to be going forward. Maybe it changes if they're playing from behind. I presume it would, but I don't know. They're playing Dallas, so who knows if they will be playing from behind. It's probably going to be a close game in theory. But Grant, you mentioned playing Fitz with Murray. Is that just a salary reason, or do you prefer him over Kirk?
I mean, no, I prefer Kirk drastically.
Okay.
Just on a raw points, point per dollar play basis. It's more Fitz getting him at low ownership, the salary relief, and the corollary effect.
I did want to mention Ross' weather report. I actually have it here if you want to do the old screen share. And it's the frozen tundra today in Green Bay for what it's worth. It's going to be super cold. Kansas City, we're seeing right now, he's got an orange. Snow is falling in KC and will likely continue throughout the game. I know I'm pretty sure they have the field is heated underneath for what it's worth. The wind game is what throws me off here, Tuttle, because I really wanted to make what's his name happen for the Dolphins, the receiver, the guy that just signed his contract, and I'm forgetting his name.
Devontae Parker.
I love Parker today, and we're looking at 30-mile-an-hour gusts is what we're looking at. And I try not to freak out over weather, but obviously wind does affect the passing game. Are we concerned? Because Roth has that orange. How much do we care? 20-mile-per-hour winds, 30-mile-per-hour gusts as of right now. Things may change, but that's where we're projected at.
I mean, semi-concerned, but you're only playing Parker in tournaments anyways, I would assume. And he's one of the more interesting players since he's been questionable all week and just kind of got clearance last night. That could definitely lead to lower ownership than what he should be, and obviously a really, really good spot. So I'm still fine playing him in tournaments, but if you were considering him in cash games, which I was not, but if you were, then I think that's enough to kind of edge off of him a little bit.
And it wasn't an injury. It's just it's concussion protocol. Like, he's fine, right? So it's not like he's dealing with a shoulder or a leg, or you might be lingering. Let's see. As far as other quarterbacks, I feel like we haven't really talked about anybody specifically outside of a few of the top guys. Tuttle, give me a quarterback or two you're targeting in tournaments.
Yeah, Dak specifically was the guy that I really, really like in tournaments. I think, again, people are going to be targeting that Cleveland-Arizona game, but Arizona side is going to be more heavily owned from the quarterback position. So I don't mind sprinkling in Baker Mayfield there if you think that game is going to go completely off. Deshaun Watson would be the other kind of higher price tournament option that I like quite a bit. He'll garner a little bit more ownership, but again, we're not overly worried about ownership in general at the quarterback position. I think there's lots of places you can go, but I think those would be kind of my favorite guys that I want to concentrate on.
If you land on Tannehill, you're okay with that? You're not necessarily seeking him out, but he's fine?
I'm fading.
Okay.
It didn't work last week. I just, if he continues to post just ridiculous efficiency numbers, I'm not going to be winning money, and I'm okay with that.
Are people not going to play Jimmy G? Like, what I'm seeing right now is 6% ownership. Do we care about Jimmy G against Atlanta? Is that just going to be a run game, or just Grant? Is he somebody you're considering?
Not really. May have one or two shares of him, but more than likely not going to. In most matchups, he's not going to throw over 30 attempts. Like in this matchup where they're heavily favored, don't think he throws over 30 attempts. He's had 2 good games all season long, or 3 good games all season long. And I get that it can happen, but 2 of those games came against Arizona. One of those games came just a back and forth, ridiculous game where the Saints put up 50 points. So I don't really have a whole lot of interest in him. I think that you're just better off going with other options. I get it's a decent matchup, but it's not a spot that I really want to deal with too much.
Yeah, Mahomes is another guy. If you spend up, I think he's going to be low owned. I don't know if the snow is scaring people away, but maybe the salary does to some extent. I didn't get your official take on this one, Tuttle, as far as Winston and throwing tennis balls. Is that enough to chase you away? Is Winston just himself enough to chase you away?
Honestly, it's probably enough to make you want to play him in tournaments. Anything that suppresses ownership on guys that have a question mark or some uncertainty behind, that should kind of make you want to play him more in tournaments, honestly. We know he's going to sling it no matter what. We saw him sling it in the second half with that injury. So, yeah, again, it's not somewhere I would go in cash, but I think any uncertainty, if you have any stance on that, that's great for tournaments.
All right, pulling up the running backs, and this is the conversation, Tuttle, right? You got to pick 3 of these dudes. I assume they're going to throw a utility spot at running back as well as far as your cash lineup. CMC is, he just is CMC, and he's awesome, but he's super expensive. But you certainly can find the salary for him. It's not that hard to do it, but you're going to hit your receivers to some degree probably. You're probably going to pair him with Patrick Laird, most likely. He's super cheap in that game against the Giants. And on the other side, you got Barkley. Something's got to give this terrible Dolphins defense. Barkley's been bad for a while now, right? He's out there proving running backs matter by being terrible.
Everyone keeps saying that, and he's probably still injured.
Yeah. Okay, so I don't want to play a guy.
He claims he's not, and that it's a mental thing at this point. Yeah,
I'm sure that's absolutely the reason. It's not like a high ankle sprain can linger for a very long period of time. It's not like he was averaging well over 5 yards a carry prior to being injured, and now he's down to like 3.7 once coming back. And people lie. People lie in sports. If they say they have an injury, then it changes things a bit. Like, I don't think he's.
Why is he playing then? Like, just chill. Like, you don't have to play. It's all right.
People
don't
generally want to play. I don't know if you know this, but most athletes like to be in the game.
Some would rather go bowling.
We got sports psychology 101 with Grant today.
Hey, I took sports psychology in college, so I know what I'm talking about. I got like a C. Probably.
Is that what you taught to those high schoolers you taught?
No, I was a student in the class is what I'm talking about. I'm getting a flashback. So Barkley we're seeing right now is the most highest projected, running back on the slate. Carson's right there as well. Penny no longer in the not a thing. Not Penny's boat, not Penny's backfield against Carolina. Of course, Carson has a tricky job as far as catching the football, which is kind of, that's crucial. I need those fantasy points for catching the ball as well. Maybe the wind subdues, the passing game to some degree, but Barkley and Laird catch like 6 or 7 balls, and all of a sudden, the screen passes, the short game works a little bit more. Gurley's been a thing of late, CMC, and then of course there's Uncle Lenny. In theory, Fournette against Oakland should be a great play, but that team has been an absolute disaster. Like, who can even trust them to move the ball? But it is Oakland. They're a straight last game ever, I believe, in Oakland. They're going to be in Vegas next year. There you go. Hammer Oakland. The other side, Jacobs will be an amazing play if we knew Jacobs was going to play, but he's another guy.
We got confirmation that he's going to play.
Okay, he's going to play? And do we think he's going to – is it half measures, or do we think he's going to be a full go? Because they were talking about him having a hard time putting his shirt on or his jersey. I know drugs are great. The NFL drugs are just amazing, so they'll probably shoot him up pregame, and if nothing else, they'll have a good first half. But
I mean, we saw – who was it? Oh, gosh. Played for the Seahawks. Linebacker got run over by Bo Jackson. White starts with
Brian Bosworth.
Yeah, he had pretty much the same shoulder issues for most of his career, and he still crushed.
He fizzled out pretty quickly, Bosworth, for what it's worth. But
yeah, because he had serious shoulder injuries on both of them. Jacobs probably doesn't need to use his shoulders that much. I think, based on what I know, it's more about not being able to lift his arm up nearly high enough from what I gather. But I still think that he'll be fine. Like, no one's going to play him, and he gets the best spot on the board.
Yeah,
Jacksonville's defense against the run has been horrendous, absolutely horrendous. All he has to do is run in a straight line and hold a ball.
Well, part of me for wanting running backs to be able to catch a football. How do you catch a football like this or like this? He can't put his arms above his shoulders?
He can't catch anyway.
Yeah, it's not going to really make a difference. He gets one less point because he gets one less catch for 0 yards.
All right, Tuttle, let's have the conversation as far as the cash game perspective. I've built multiple routes and just kind of staring at them and like I'm not really sure which one I prefer. Can you rank? Let's do this: Barkley, Fournette versus Carson, like all sort of the similar price. Do you have a separation amongst the three? Are they all basically coin tosses for you?
Yeah, I mean, I would say if you have any strong read on this, you're probably really, really good at this or lying. I think it's all very close. We're talking about all guys that are going to see an extremely, extremely heavy workload. Carson's the guy that's probably going to see the least involvement as a pass catcher, but he's been fine in that category when Penny's been out as well. So I don't want to go on and make that a kind of the sticking point because I do think he does. He'll get 3 or 4 targets in this spot still. And he arguably has the best matchup of the three you mentioned. So, I mean, if I'm choosing, let me see what I have for my rankings here on DraftKings, because I really do think those three, it's very, very close. I think I have Barkley, if I can pull it up here.
I should have asked as you're pulling it up, are you jamming in CMC or you're not really sure yet? Or
no, he's not on my radar for his price tag. I have Barkley, Carson, and then Fournette ranked in that order.
Grant, is that where you have him as well? Because, again, like I agree with Tuttle. It's like if you have a hot take here, you're probably just like creating your own narrative and probably lying. Maybe you're really, really sharp too. But I think it's just super close.
Yeah, I think it depends on the site. Over on Yahoo, it goes Barkley, Fournette, Carson.
Yeah, Carson's way expensive there.
Yeah, it's you swap Fournette and Carson, but like I have Fournette and Carson pretty much pegged for the same amount of points, so it's just all price dependent, and that's it. Barkley is the clear number one. I am using CMC in my cash games. I just think that the wide receiver options are like on any site they're too cheap. Like throwing in Kirk or Amendola or Dede or Conley like just makes it so easy. And then I'm not going with the top price tight ends. I'm going with Higbee. So it just makes things way too simple to throw CMC into my lineup, get those guaranteed 20 points and decent shot at 30 points. So that's kind of where I'm going at cash.
Yeah, I saw the CMC care. Does the organization care? Obviously, they're playing for nothing at this point, but the 1,000 might be a thing, or total yards from scrimmage might be a thing he's kind of shooting for in a lost season. Does anybody know who's got the most total yards from scrimmage in a season? Anybody? Happened not too long ago.
Yeah, it wasn't AP.
No.
Was it CJ2K?
Yes. Nicely done. Well done. You've won the home version of this game. Congratulations. Give me your address in the DM. He's got a shot at that. I think he's like 450 yards or something like that combined. I was working the math last night out of curiosity, and he needs to average like 90 yards or so receiving to get 1,000 as well. If that's something they care about. So Tuttle, if you're not playing McCaffrey, is it Laird season or are you just playing those three guys? It's three of those four. Yes, maybe, possibly.
Yeah, 3 of those 4. Throw Laird into the mix on PPR sites. I think he's kind of semi in the mix on FanDuel, but he's not quite as necessary. But yeah, like on DraftKings and Yahoo, where he's extremely cheap, I think he's definitely in the mix.
So it feels like ownership's going to be pretty congested as far as those running backs. I'm pulling them up right now. Barkley, by the way, 37% on Yahoo is our current projection. He's the top projection on DK as well. Then Carson, then Laird, then Gurley at 20%. Fournette at 12%. Mostert, Mustare, if he, they said he separated himself, and the coaches have talked about how he's earned it. He's been the best for sure. Like going into the season, obviously it was more of a Coleman backfield, but there is some dudes to split it with, and I think he's interesting for tournaments. Drake's another guy you can have in that Cleveland, Arizona stack for sure. Zeke, nobody's really going to play. Lindsey, nobody's really going to play. That Philadelphia backfield, who really knows what's going to happen there. And Grant, like Dalvin Cook, without Madison, nobody's going to play Cook. Great tournament play as far as I can tell. Aaron Jones at 7%. Give me some pivots off the guys we talked about as far as the chalk.
Yeah, you don't play those chalk guys up top. You pivot to Dalvin Cook going up against Chargers. Chargers don't have a good run defense. Minnesota needs to win. It's a great spot for him. We saw exactly what he was doing earlier on in the season. Yes, he's been injured a bit recently, but this was a guy that was the focal point of the offense, putting up near CMC levels. And now he's just had 3 straight bad weeks, one of which he got injured, still ended up with 14 points, one of which he was injured and against Detroit, still got 15 points, and one of which was against a tough Denver team where the game script really didn't help him out too much, if I remember correctly. Like, everything points towards him being a potential 30-point guy, and no one's going to play him, and he's only slightly more expensive than these other guys. You play him in tournaments. Next guy, Derrick Henry, a guy that is putting up 30 every single week. You just play him. He's 700 more than, I think, Barkley, 800 more than Barkley, 900 more than Carson and Fournette. You play those guys in tournaments. You mentioned Mustard. He is an absolutely fantastic play. He's 5.2K. The guy is just crushing. He's probably going to get 20 carries. There's a perfect game script for him. He's hyper efficient. He can get involved in the receiving game. He can get touchdowns. They love to run. They're fantastic at running. Everything points towards him being a great play. And then no one's really talking about Zeke or Melvin Gordon too much.
No.
Zeke, yeah, why? Like, I don't want to be a game log guy, but Zeke, last 4 games, 23, 20, 16, 20. Now gets a decent spot going up against the Rams. Can get 3 touchdowns here, can get the 100-yard bonus. Hasn't had it in a while, but he can easily end up with over 100 yards rushing. And then Melvin Gordon, like, it's not a great matchup going up against Minnesota, but we are getting the exact same Melvin Gordon we got when he was 8.5K last year, 8.5K the year before. This offense isn't that bad. The Chargers actually have a decent positive point differential. They're not a bad team. I think they win this game. Gordon's probably going to get 20 rushes. He would have gotten it last week if it weren't a complete and total blowout. Got 20 rushes versus Denver, was 1 point away from getting the 100-yard bonus. Got 22 versus Oakland, got 20 versus Green Bay, got 14 versus KC. He's involved in the receiving game still. He has more touchdown equity than almost anyone over the last 4 years. Like, Melvin Gordon is a fantastic play that no one's going to be on.
All right, Tuttle, give me some pivots because you mentioned all the chalk, and there's a lot of options. Grant threw out a bunch of there. Elliott is fine. I would prefer Cook at lower ownership. I'd probably prefer Aaron Jones at lower ownership. Right now we're seeing Josh Jacobs at 3%. I understand. Look, yeah, I think they're just going to shoot him up, I suppose. You mentioned Henry. That game has like playoff implications, and the city seems to be excited about the matchup there, and I think he's going to be up for the game. And he missed some practices throughout the week, I believe, or he's limited to some degree. I assume he's fine. Tuttle, give me the tournament pivots at running back because there's plenty.
Yeah, I think Grant mentioned a lot of them. I think the one that I agree with and my favorite of the bunch is Dalvin Cook. I agree with pretty much everything he said there. And Madison out is great news for him as well. I know people are high on Mike Boone, but I just don't see him seeing the similar role that Madison grew into. Madison had to work hard to see any sort of expanded role. He started out with a smaller role to start the season. Grant mentioned they have to win this game to kind of stay in the division hunt. So, yeah, Dalvin Cook, I think, is probably my favorite tournament option. He's a little bit tough to fit in on DraftKings because he's so expensive, but he's cheap on FanDuel relatively.
Like 85, I think?
Yeah, he's 85. If we saw that at any point in time earlier in this year, in this spot, in this matchup, in a game that we thought he was going to get a decent amount of touches, like he would be a cash game option. And now nobody's really talking about him. So, yeah, Cook's, I think, my favorite tournament pivot of pretty much everybody that has been mentioned so far.
He's $36 on Yahoo for what it's worth. Henry's $36 as well. Gurley at 21 on Yahoo seems like a pretty good price, pretty fair. McCaffrey at 44. Barkley at 26. Like, you got to play Barkley, I think, in your cash games. Man, $26 Barkley against Miami. What a world. Laird, of course, is $12. We got to talk about him. And Carson's a little priced up there on Yahoo at 34. Tuttle, anybody else off the board? Or I know Grant ran off a bunch of dudes. You want to jump in? Talk about some receivers. Of course, we'll have plenty of time for questions from the chat. If you guys are watching us on YouTube, feel free to like and subscribe. And Devin, our fabulous multitasking producer, of course, he's going to pull a bunch of questions there. We'll ask him later on in the show. The premium shows, of course, are after us. If you guys are watching, premium, guys, stick around for that. I believe it's Tip and Pick and STL Cards. And I think DB is actually going to be on Crunch Time along with JSU, who won himself another 100K this week in basketball. So congrats to him. Anything else as far as running backs, boys? You guys want to jump to receivers?
The only guy I'll also mention that recency bias is against, and I think probably could be a misreading of the situation, is Miles Sanders, who's still cheap. He's a guy that I think is kind of difficult to project because everybody sees the Boston Scott just, went in on Monday night and got a bunch of touches. But if the situation,
play Boston Scott.
Nobody's going to play Boston Scott, but I don't think Boston Scott's going to get.
Wasn't Sanders exhausted or tired? There was something. There was a reason
Sanders was cramping, which is why Scott got the extended run. You could certainly argue that Scott earned himself a little bit bigger role, but I would be surprised if he got anywhere near the amount of role that he saw last week. Everybody's going to be off Sanders because of that recency bias. So Sanders would be the other guy that I would throw into GPP consideration.
You got anybody, Grant? You want to talk some receivers?
I think we went through everyone with running backs. I'm ready for some receivers.
Go ahead. You're batting first.
Fuller's going to play. I like Fuller. Everyone's probably going to go with Hopkins, but Fuller is the guy with just massive upside in any given matchup here. It's going to come in at low ownership. He's only 5.6K, and we saw what he did, I think, against Atlanta. Tennessee's obviously not the same defense, but this is one of the highest totals on the board, and he's going to draw not nearly the amount of ownership because everyone's worried about the injury, but he's an absolute guy that can smash. Looking at the Jacksonville wide receivers, Cole is probably not going to draw a ton of ownership. He's 3K. This guy has 25-point upside. Like, that's not an exaggeration. We've seen this guy just absolutely crush in the past. Got completely phased out of the offense with Chark in there. But now without Chark, Cole can end up with 10 targets in this game.
You've named all three Jacksonville receivers, by the way, just throwing it out there.
I named all three?
You mentioned Conley before. You mentioned Westbrook before as well.
Yeah, I did. And you know how much all of them combined cost over on DK?
Well, they cost roster spots. You can't take the money home.
Yeah, well, we are prioritizing running back spots, so it makes sense to play a bunch of them. In order for them, realistically in this matchup, all of them can end up with 15 points here. It's going to be a fairly high-scoring game, in my opinion. The total set at 47. Minshew's probably going to throw 40 times. Granted, 8 of them is going to be dump-offs to Fournette, and probably 4 of them are going to go to the tight end, but the rest are going to wide receivers. The most expensive one is 4.6K. 2 of these guys are likely to go off huge. So I think that any one of these guys are fantastic plays. I already mentioned Robert Woods, and Tuttle went into how Cooper Kupp's a fantastic GPP play. I agree with that. Woods is probably going to draw a decent amount of ownership. I don't care. I already mentioned the Arizona guys. Galladay, already kind of went through him. Best matchup on the board. Going to get heavy volume without Marvin Jones in there. Absolute smash spot. Went through the Cleveland guys a little bit when I talked about Baker, but it's going up against Arizona. One of them is going to go off likely. But a spot that I think is going to go almost entirely overlooked is going to be the Chargers. Phillip Rivers, I didn't really mention him as a tournament play. Understandably so. But, I can't see how Keenan Allen or Mike Williams, one of the two, doesn't get a massive amount of volume. I get that Minnesota's been a good defense this year. I get it's not the highest implied team total. But I think right now it's pretty much a pick-em game. I can't remember. All right, Chargers are still 1.5-point dogs, but it's being played at home. They played some tough opponents. They played 4 of their last 6 on the road, 5 of their last 7 on the road. Now they're getting a home game. I get that it's not the biggest home field advantage, but it is a bit of an advantage here. So I love both of the Chargers guys. I think they're fantastic plays. Both of them are too cheap. If you're not playing a little bit of them, you're probably making a bad decision.
Tuttle, is it good or is it bad for Godwin that Evans is out? Or it's who knows?
I think it's good, but it's probably leans more neutral than people would expect. I think it's definitely good in terms of target share. Godwin's also a guy that's going to run the majority of his routes in the slot anyways, which is beneficial towards avoiding double coverage and that sort of thing. So, yeah, overall it's good, but I wouldn't expect an absolute monster target share for him. I do think he'll easily be one of the top target shares on the slate, and I think he's an excellent play. But you can probably temper expectations a little bit.
Oh, ownership projections, well, everything's kind of spread out. I'm seeing Hopkins at 20%, A.J. Brown at 18%, which are we chasing those big plays? He doesn't seem like a guy that gets a ton of targets. I like the talent.
They haven't had to throw recently.
Okay. So you think A.J. Brown's going to get 8 targets today?
I think that he potentially could.
Well, yeah.
It's not something we generally see from him, but that's just basically a case-by-case scenario. We look at every single matchup they've had recently, and they've all been blowouts. Tannehill, last 4 games, 27, 22, 18, 19 pass attempts. We've only had, 2 starts where he's gone over 30, and those 2 starts was against Tampa Bay, and it was against, who else? Carolina. He had 7 targets in that Carolina game. Tampa Bay, that was one of the first weeks that Tannehill was actually starting in the offense, so I don't entirely expect it to be some of that. But I would not be surprised at all by a double-digit target game on A.J. Brown. He's probably a little bit too expensive on DK and has enough ownership for me to go there. But on Yahoo, he's $15. He's a fantastic play there.
What's your take here, Tuttle, as far as Tennessee? I guess for the receivers as well. Corey Davis, I don't think you're playing Tajay Sharp. Jonnu Smith, I think, will get a little bit of love at tight end. Or are they just going to run the ball 30 times with Henry?
Well, I would definitely be surprised if A.J. Brown saw double-digit targets today.
Yeah.
But with that said, I do think he's a fine play where his price hasn't been jacked up. Grant mentioned Yahoo where he's only 15. I think he's still a fine option. You can play him in pretty much every format over there. And FanDuel, he's still pretty cheap as well. DraftKings, I think, is where the argument would be against him. PPR side, he's priced up a little bit more. He hasn't topped 8 targets. He has 8 targets once this season. He's just not a high volume guy. If you think he's going to continue with the efficiency, or if you think that spiked volume is a possibility with Tennessee possibly playing from behind, I think you can make a case for him. But he's a guy that I think I'll be short on in general, other than on sites that I mentioned like FanDuel and Yahoo.
Grant buried the lead. There's no hump dog, so somebody's got to get those 5 targets.
Hump dog.
Miss hump dog.
Sorry, Grant. RIP to your hump dog shares. What's your thought, Tuttle, as far as the Jags? Because we've talked about the Jags, they're cheap, and no baby shark, obviously, and the Jags have looked like a disaster of late, but in theory, this is a good matchup. They're projected to score 20 points. They're probably going to be behind. Throwing the ball, Westbrook, Conley, Cole, are they all traps? I like Conley on DK where he's 3.6. If I can't get a 3.6, Cole's one of the 3K guys that, Ward, this is a last man standing in Philadelphia, I suppose, in the conversation as well. We can sort of have that, what are your thoughts, your favorite cheapies? You said there's going to be a lot of cheapies out there that are bad. Are those guys good cheapies or bad cheapies?
I think in general they're good cheapies. I think the problem is going to be picking with any certainty which one is the good or best option of them. I think if you're playing tournaments, you can very easily spread exposure amongst them. I think the guy that is popping, you mentioned, is Chris Conley because of his price tag. On DraftKings specifically, he's kind of really, really cheap. Cole, I think, is cheap as well. Cole's going to be the odd guy out, which makes me like him quite a bit for tournaments. But yeah, I think they're all strong plays in general. Projecting which with any certainty is going to be the best play of the bunch is tough. So I think the best thing to do is kind of take the price sensitive approach with it.
Hopkins or Godwin?
I think I'm Godwin there.
Grant?
Godwin.
Anybody playing Tyreek today? Just throwing it out there. Nobody's playing him, right?
I have a small amount of him, but yeah, not really.
You mentioned Galladay. I wish I could trust his quarterback, but I think the talent's great. The matchup's obviously pretty good, and I like the dome as well too. Certainly interested in tournaments. Another I wish I can trust his quarterback is Scary Terry McLaurin against Philadelphia. I think it's kind of interesting. Again, can't really trust that quarterback. Hey, we're talking about cheapies, Tuttle. I mentioned Greg Ward in passing, like JJ Arcega-Whiteside. These guys get you excited.
Man, I think Ward's actually going to get some ownership too. No, none of them make me excited. Ward's the guy if you're looking at, recent trends and whatnot, but he's one of the guys that I would say is more of probably unnecessary. I say that with hesitation because he's going to be on the field.
He's going to get a gadget play, right?
And he's going to be on the field against the Redskins. So it's in play that he hit. Yeah, it's in play that he hits a big play. But in general, I'll probably not be heavily exposed to Greg Ward.
He played quarterback, and he might have done other things at college as well too for Houston. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's involved in kind of the Philly special or something like that. Who knows? I mentioned how I like Parker, but the win's kind of concerning me to some degree. I'm probably going to grab a share. Talk about those Cleveland receivers. We like Landry more than Beckham, right? Like, at least I do. Is anybody going to disagree with that? Like, sure, you can play Beckham too, but Landry's the better play. Yes? Anybody disagreeing?
No, I don't disagree.
I think I would add the caveat that, he's the better play in cash.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, if you want to play the ownership game, leverage, yada, yada, yada. Nobody's going to play Devontae Adams. He's out there for what it's worth. Edelman, once again, he's questionable, but I presume he's going to play. Julio, I'm not playing Julio. I know you can make the talent argument and the ownership argument, but I just don't think he's healthy, and I don't think there's any reason for him to play a ton. But whatever. And these games go ahead.
You can also play the 49ers secondary is completely banged up argument as well.
Okay, then play Ridley.
Yeah, I don't disagree with your take, but I actually think it could be. I don't know how much exposure I'll actually have to Julio, but I think it could be an interesting spot. I think it's probably a pretty overlooked spot, but I mean, this 49ers defense is extremely, extremely banged up.
I don't know why I forgot Ridley was on IR. Don't play Ridley.
Yeah, I was just going to let that one slide.
Yeah,
I was too. I was like,
well, you'll call me out if I screw something up. It took me a second. It's like, oh, yeah, Ridley, don't play him. He's going to be low owned. But give me a low-owned guy, like 5% or less, Grant, that we like for tournaments.
I mean, I already said Mike Williams. Lockett has massive upside in any given matchup. He's been injured recently, but I think he's fine now. Let's see. I'm trying to find a real ballsy one. Cortland Sutton is 5.9K, has 100-yard, 2-touchdown upside. I don't care about the snow. Locke is not a guy that has passed for a whole lot so far this season. I'm not talking about actual output. I'm talking about volume. And now he's getting a matchup where he's likely to be coming from behind. Sutton could see 12 targets here. And no one's going to own him. He's projected for under 2.1% on every single site.
And he's legit, like, talented for what it's worth. But, best narrative that we've seen all season long, Drew Lock. I'm not sure if you guys caught this. Drew Lock is playing against his ex-girlfriend who owns the Chiefs. He dated one of the Hunt daughters, so there you go. So I don't know how that works. Yeah, his ex-girlfriend owns the Chiefs. So we got to move on, talk some tight ends. And I know the chat pulled up, and I'm sure they're probably razzing me about my Ridley take. Forget about Ridley. It never happened. Bust out that Men in Black like mind eraser or something like that. Got to talk some tight ends briefly on we'll talk defenses, and then we'll talk about some correlation plays, and then of course a bunch of questions before we step aside and make way for the premium shows. Tuttle, Grant kind of referenced it within the Robo salary cap, so it's kind of hard to spend up, at least in your cash games, for tight end. And Higbee looks like he's still too cheap, especially in Yahoo, especially on DK. And then there's Thomas, of course, that's interesting as well if you can't pay all the way up for Higbee. Philadelphia is down to their tight ends essentially, so sure, you could play Ertz, you could play Goddard, a little bit more expensive, probably more of tournament pivots. Same deal with Kittle and Kelsey. Those guys are super talented, but they are a bit pricey. For cash games, are we looking at Higbee? Are we looking at Thomas? Is that kind of where we're at?
Yeah, I think so. I think on FanDuel would be pretty much the only site where you could probably make a case for paying up against pricing. Again, pricing is just a little bit different there. So I still think Higbee is a fine option, though. He's obviously has the targets. He's been getting he's heavily involved. So, yeah, I like Higbee a lot. On FanDuel, though, I would just say you can, if you have the salary, it's not bad to play any of the top 3 tight end options there, or even Darren Waller at 6,200.
Yeah, Waller's in the conversation for me as well. Say you have all the salary for whatever reason. Who's your favorite spend-up tournament guy, if you're going to just pick one?
It's tough. It's really close between Kelsey and Kittle for me. I have Kelsey slightly ahead, but I think those two are both very strong tournament options.
Is that based upon like your lineup construction probably?
I mean, they're pretty much the exact same price on like FanDuel. It's Kelsey's consistency has been really strong lately. And he hasn't really seen like a spiked game. So I just like the potential floor plus ceiling combination for him there.
Grant?
Higbee's the top cash game guy. It's that simple. I'll have a lot of them in tournaments, but that's because I'm stacking up Jared Goff a whole lot. Tournament guys, Kelsey is going to have a just absolute heyday here. And so
No, I'm excited. Go ahead, continue.
I mean, Denver funnels targets to the tight end. The snow might help him get a little bit boost in volume. We know exactly what he is, which is probably the top tight end in the league. He's consistently pegged over 7K earlier on in the season. He's disappointed to an extent, but now he has 7 straight weeks of 10-plus points in every single match with some 20-point games in there. and he could end up with 2 touchdowns here and 100 yards. Absolutely love Kelsey for tournaments, considering he's going to be single-digit ownership. Don't mind Kittle, but 2 guys that I'm very much looking at that I don't think are going to draw a lot of ownership. Noah Fant is heavily involved in this offense, heavily involved with touchdown equity, playing fantastic. Block loves him, going to get heavy volume considering he's going up against Kansas City, which offers some of the highest volume targets to opposing tight ends. He should crush here, and no one is going to play him at his price tag of 4.1K, which is way too low. This guy has legit 2 touchdown, 100-yard upside, and he's going to come in at 2% ownership. And then Njoku, he's going up against Arizona. Like, people entirely forgot how much Baker likes him, and he's going up against Arizona. Njoku and Fant are 2 of my favorite plays on the entire slate.
Yeah, he had 37% of the snaps last week. Do you think that's basically where he's at?
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up getting more. If I remember correctly, didn't he get injured in that game?
Well, he was coming back from IR. I don't know if he was injured in the game, to be honest.
I thought you were saying Fant. Njoku, like, I expect him to be more in the offense, and even if he is getting a limited amount of snaps, he's 4.2K. He can still crush at that price tag.
All right, got a bunch of questions loading up here from you guys that are on YouTube. I assume they're from the regular chat as well. The Discord here at RotoGrinders. Like and subscribe. We got about 9 minutes or so before you step aside there. By the way, Roth just tweeted out a picture in Kansas City, and it's snowing pretty good, but we kind of expected that. And that's. Do you have an official take in that title, or is that sort of game by game? Flurries obviously matter, but like nobody's going to be playing Mahomes and Hill, and Kelsey can certainly be a thing too. Like that's expensive as well too. But I don't know, for tournaments, we got to look this way, right?
Yeah, I'm fine looking at it in tournaments. I think a lot of those guys were priced out of cash game consideration anyways, except for possibly Kelsey on FanDuel. But yeah, I'm still fine going there in tournaments. If you take a look, their team total or the totals in general has dropped pretty significantly in that spot, which is obviously cause for concern. Down to 44.5 after opening up at 47. Honestly, that's where I get the majority of my weather takes, is just looking at line movement in terms of totals throughout the week. So yeah, there's cause for concern there. I still think Kelsey would be probably one of the least affected options, just in terms of the routes that he does run in that spot. So I'm fine, grabbing exposure to Kelsey, but I don't know. It's going to lead to low ownership, like you said.
We've seen that Houston, Tennessee number spike up, actually going the other way. 50.5 as of right now. That's moved up throughout the week. Give me defense. You got a defense take title?
I don't have very strong defense takes. I think on DraftKings, 2,300. Right. Lions defense is kind of the defense that sticks out as kind of the cheap cash game option. This is probably a really bold take. I have some exposure to the Bengals defense just because they're so cheap on DraftKings. They're not necessarily really on any other site, and I hate myself for even playing them. Other spots that you could go to, there's no really good cheap defense that sticks out on Yahoo as I'm scrolling through here. I think the Packers at $15 are a pretty decent overall option. And I think that the Buccaneers in general and then the Chiefs are kind of the Bucs and Chiefs on FanDuel are kind of the cheaper options that I would go with there.
Yeah, you can get the Detroit for 13, the Eagles for 15. I don't think that's terrible either, but you're right. If you want to spend up on New England at 22 or San Fran's 21, a bit tricky to get there. What if salary wasn't a thing? Who's just the best defense today?
If salary wasn't a thing?
Yeah. Who cares what salary? Just what the defense is going to put up the most fantasy points.
This is fairly simple.
Patriots.
Okay. Grant, you have a defense thought, or you want to give me your favorite correlation play of the day?
I'm looking at defensive ownership. Honestly, the 2 best defensive plays for tournaments are probably the Rams and the Seahawks. We know what Allen is, and it's not that great. Seahawks defense has shown some upside. They get a whole bunch of turnovers. Going up against Carolina, where they're probably throwing later on in the game, could absolutely see an uptick in sacks and picks. And then the Rams defense has been fantastic recently. I wouldn't be surprised if Dak throws the ball 45 times, gets sacked a bunch, and ends up with some turnovers. Like, they're both 2% and both 2% defenses. Either one of them has 30-point upside or 20-point upside.
We got questions. Grant, you got answers. First one for you, Grant. Non-PPR, this is Miller versus Perryman.
Perryman.
Tuttle, you're up next. Sutton versus Drake. I assume that's a utility play.
Drake.
All right, Grant, you like Tannehill or Murray on FanDuel specific?
I haven't looked at FanDuel. Probably Tannehill.
They're exact same, yeah.
Yeah, you go Tannehill.
Do you agree with that, Tuttle?
Bias aside, yes, I think you go Tannehill.
What's your bias? You just don't like Tannehill?
Yes, basically, yeah.
Maybe Tannehill was okay, and the Dolphins are just a terrible organization. And also, obviously, he played quarterback for 15 games in college, something like that. Not a lot.
Honestly, my bias against him is not anything to do with him as a player. It's just my brain can't look at the box score and computate how he continues to put up the massive numbers that he is.
Super efficient, man. Tuttle, Winston versus Baker. Mayfield.
This is tournament for sure. I would not go either of these options in cash. I'll go Baker.
I agree with you.
Grant,
pick one of these three. It looks like there's different positions as well, too. Robinson, Gallup and Mostert, if you can rank those three.
Gallup, Mostert, Robinson.
I agree. This is a twofer, Tuttle. This is for cash. This is probably a question some people are having. CMC and Connolly versus Carson and Woods.
Yeah, that's tough. I like the Carson Woods side, but I think both are viable.
Grant, this is a great question. One of the greatest running backs of all time versus Patrick Laird. Adrian Peterson versus Patrick Laird, Grant. Who do you have for me?
Tournaments go AP. Dude has 100-yard rushing upside and multiple touchdown upside. Laird doesn't really have the most upside in the world. Yes, he's going to get a decent amount of dump-offs and some run, but they're not great in the run game. Laird is fantastic. I prefer him in cash, but tournaments absolutely go AP.
No Geis, obviously. Tuttle, I'll take Laird over Peterson. Am I wrong in that? That's what I would do. Maybe I'm falling for the trend. Has he been touted without the disingenuous touting or something like that? If I bought into it, I'm not really sure, but I'll take Laird over Peterson. I like my running backs that catch footballs. Metcalf versus Moore. Is that DJ Moore? Because that's got to be DJ Moore, right, Tuttle?
Yeah, that's DJ Moore if that's the question.
Yeah. I got a twofer for you, Tuttle. This is for DK Cash. Watson and Whiteside. I'm thinking basketball. I'm like, what? That's the dude for Philadelphia. Watson and Whiteside versus Tannehill and Connolly.
I was thinking basketball too.
That's I'm like a sideway.
Tannehill, Conley. I think Arcega-Whiteside's pretty thin.
It took me a second. I'm like, Whiteside, what? Double. Maybe he might get 10 more blocks.
He's been dominating, man.
It's a contract year. Wait till next year when he's paid again. Somebody's going to fall for it. Grant, your Seahawks versus the Cleveland defense. Which defense do you prefer?
Tournament Seahawks.
This is for Grant specific. Baby sound or baby sound?
Yeah, she's sick right now, so she's crying a little bit.
Oh, well, hopefully, you got a couple minutes and we'll tend to her. We're going to get off the air in just a few minutes here. Cooper and A.J. Brown for PPR. What do you have for me, Tuttle?
Man, Cooper's the hot take there.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say it's Amari.
What a question, by the way. Cooper, again, it's so weird, the questions you get. Because, you think Cooper clearly, but it's a question. It's a conversation. Pick one of these three for cash. This is for you, Grant. You got Parker. We talked about that win being somewhat concerning. I love him if, the win was subdued. Moore, Parker, and Gallup.
Honestly, might be bold, but Gallup.
I think it's Moore. What do you think, Tuttle?
I mean, I'm biased because I love Gallup this week.
All right, fair enough.
2 against 1, suck it, Dean. Hadn't had a second Dean this show.
You can't point to the scoreboard. Nothing's happened just yet. But and, of course, if you guys are right, small sample size. Yeah. We already got Grant's take on this, guys, so I'm curious what Tuttle has to say. If you can sort of rank Njoku, Higbee, and Fant.
That's Higbee 1, Fant 2, and Njoku 3.
Watson or Jimmy G? Who's going to score more fantasy points, Grant?
Watson.
Dude, you not have a – bless you, by the way. Now, how rude of me. I'm just yelling at you.
I mean, I was trying to see if I could get the answer out beforehand. Timing did not work out there.
Give me a hot take.
Keelan Cole has the highest point per dollar output of any player this entire season thus far.
Well, okay. That's not – I mean, look, he's cheating because he's like the floor, but all right, fair enough.
Okay, really? It's not like we've had multiple guys who are the floor all season long. I'm not talking about this week. I'm talking about for the season.
All right, fair. It's Keelan Cole season. Tuttle, see that hot take and raise it.
Dak Stack brought back with Cooper Kupp wins a milli.
The Cup one is just – that's scalding because nobody's playing him. Everybody's afraid. But you're right. Like, why can't he play 70% or 90% of the snaps?
The guy has 40 legit 40-point upside.
Yep.
Well, he might not get 40 snaps.
And we're all pretending that we know
in 30
exactly what
snaps,
Sean
he might
McVay is
have
going to
10
do.
catches.
We don't know. You're right. We totally don't know. But, like, I feel confident in other players getting snaps over him. But absolutely. And they're also charging me full price. But whatever. We got to get off the air.
They're not
He's
on
full
some
price.
sites.
He's 6.5K.
Yeah, he's 65. That's not full price.
Well, depending on where we're shopping, whatever. We don't have time to get into this.
Not on a single price. Or
He's
on a single
Grant.
site.
He's Tuttle. I'm Dean. Enjoy your football. We're out of here. Holler.